Welcome to another episode of the Wrestling Purest podcast. I'm Harry Sibarium with my buddy Felipe Melecio. Today we're going to do a Hulk Hogan tribute. As we all know, Hulk Hogan passed away about 6 days ago, and we decided to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly that surrounds around one of the greats of all time in the wrestling business. Felipe, how are you today, buddy?
I'm all right, man. I've just been going back and forth as to what my final thoughts are on what could arguably be, if not definitively be, the greatest, most successful, most popular, most mainstream pro wrestler of all time. And yet it feels like, just at least in my world, it just feels like a lot of people were very hesitant to celebrate too much this guy's life or hesitant to even acknowledge, especially compared to the numerous celebrity deaths that we had this past week, with the other one being Ozzy Osbourne and the outpouring that came from many fans of just music in general when Ozzy died. And for some reason, we did not experience the same thing with Hulk Hogan, even among wrestling fans. Yeah, there was the usual WWE cheerleaders who were out there, talking their talk about Hulk Hogan, but it wasn't the. But you would think that a guy like Hulk Hogan would be more universal. I mean, we have that chat going in for the Wrestling Purist admin chat, and it seemed like it was the same thing. Like it was more like it wasn't like the traditional grieving process that even like fans would do for an athlete in that particular sport or a musician or a famous actor. It just seemed like it was, wow, Hulk Hogan died. Hmm. Anyway,
I,
what's for dinner now? What are you guys gonna do? And it's as much as because I not the biggest Hulk Hogan fan, and I've not one to kind of parade his achievements either, Harry, because I don't give a damn. Like, who cares? But when collectively the wrestling fandom seems to have a blasé attitude towards it just speaks volumes to me. And I'll send it back to you and for your response. But the last fan when they did their Total Nonstop Hogan series, where they were doing the review of Hulk Hogan during his time at TNA, they did mention that, yeah, this is the most successful wrestler of all time. And if he doesn't get a chance to leave the business outright and go into the sunset on his horse and just live happily ever after, then what chance does anybody else in the industry have to, you know, um, have a happy ending to their, not just their career, Harry, but just their life in general? And it just seemed like, uh, I don't know, this is not the big exclamation point that I was expecting. And it just, I don't know, to me, it just speaks volumes. Now, luckily, I will say this, um, that I did see a clip of Monday Night Raw and they had all the wrestlers out there. And I did see the crowd chanting Hogan's name, which it's pretty cool to see, I'll admit. But then I remember that the last time that Hogan was on WWE TV, he got booed off the building, right out of the building. Like they didn't want to see him, they didn't want to hear him. And then you still have like minorities, especially African Americans, who most of the people I saw who are my friends who are African American, like EJ and a bunch of others, just felt the same way that he did. Like even my brother, who is the most apolitical person, said that, Hogan was cool and I liked him, he got me into wrestling, but once he said the N-word on camera and then he started doing MAGA stuff, that's when I kind of lost interest in him and I don't really care. And I think I even told you, right, Harry, that my other brother started questioning because we're the two oldest, and my younger brother asked us, "Hey, how come you guys made a bigger deal about Sabu than you did about Hulk Hogan? That doesn't make any sense. Hulk Hogan was a much
yeah.
bigger superstar than Sabu." You know why, Harry? Because Sabu got us right in here in the heart. He made it real. And then I brought up other examples. If Stone Cold Steve Austin dies, that's gonna be a sad day. Bret the Hitman Hart dies, that's gonna be a sad day. The Undertaker, sad day. And Undertaker is also on the right side of politics. And I'll put it this way. I can bet you dollars to donuts that no one's gonna even give a damn that he's leans to the right politically speaking, right? But for some reason, it's a big deal when Hogan does it because of all the things that have been, all the things that he has gone through in his life, because for all the positives, there's a bunch of bad stuff that he did and a bunch of ugly stuff too. And I think it just culminates and into what we had this past week where everybody just had a blasé attitude. And as you can tell, I'm kind of conflicted. I don't know how to feel about this here, but when I was I told you I was taking my daughter to go get dinner tonight, my 5-year-old, and you know, I told her, yeah, me and my friend Harry, we're gonna do this thing about Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan? Who's that? She doesn't know Hulk Hogan. She's too young. So I started explaining, Hulk Hogan, he was one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. He wore red and yellow, um, was a very popular person. But he did a lot of bad things, and then I started thinking, what bad things did he do? And then when I started thinking of all the bad things, because if we would have done this podcast like 2 days ago, oh, I was ready to just rip him apart, right, brother? But now that it's more days have gone by, Harry, I'm thinking, well, was he really a bad person? Yeah, okay, the racism, that's brutal, and some people him associating with MAGA, that's brutal too. But was he really bad? I mean, yeah, again, the racism is bad, but is he not? He's not Buck Zumhoff, right? He didn't.
Well. So
I started wondering.
so
He's
everyone's mourning Ozzy, which I loved Ozzy too. All right.
yeah.
I have a stepbrother that is a musician because of Ozzy. So like, he lost his Kobe, in that aspect. We'll get there, later. Um, but then but Ozzy was like satanic, right? He bit a bat, all this crazy
That's
stuff,
the
right?
that's the
Right,
thing.
right. But everybody still loves Ozzy, but Hogan did something despicable. I'm not saying it, and maybe he knew he was being recorded, maybe he didn't. Who knows? But Hogan gets, scarred for life. He tarnished his whole career, everything, and he'll have that asterisk about him. Like, he's on Mount Rushmore. I get that. I'm not saying he's not. I'm not, but
Yeah.
but he'll have the asterisk because, he was a great wrestler, but he was a piece of shit human being because of X, Y, and Z. I'm not
Right.
saying I'm not saying you and I are saying that per se. I mean, I did say that in a post when he died. Um, and then I've had time to think about it. I'm like, okay, like, and then excuse me, I had some people come to me privately and be like, okay, Hogan did say this, he was wrong. But I had a friend who grew up in Yonkers, white guy, grew up real rough, same neighborhood as DMX. You know how many times he was called, you know, the H word or the cracker word or whatever, I mean, or whatever he was called, or the other W word, that could be that could rhyme with the N word. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
so, but that's okay, right? I watched another influencer on the reels of Facebook today. I almost shared it in the Wrestling Purist thing. It was a black man saying, "Is Hogan really racist?" And he's going on and on saying how Hogan's racist supposedly, but he started targeting black women, saying black women only want to date black men, and they get mad when black men date white women. So he's like, there's reverse racism all the time. I told
Yeah.
you earlier how when I go to Planet Fitness, well, I haven't been there in a year or so, but when I was playing basketball at Planet Fitness, I never got picked. Why? Because I'm chubby and I'm white. Then someone walks in and knows me, picks me, then I'm still getting laughed at, and then I get guarded, and then, oh wait, we got to guard him. He can shoot. He's not just some fat white guy. So I'm not sticking up for Hogan in any way. I'm just saying that it's a touchy subject all around, but racism in general is just a bad deal. People hide behind the fact that no one knows what they really think
Yeah.
until it's exposed. Everyone's got skeletons in their closet. We have three versions of ourselves. Credit to Jay Burgos, one of my good friends. Doesn't watch wrestling, but he's pointed this out to me numerous times. We have our public self, what our
Mm.
public image is. We have our private self and who we are within that private specter. And then we have our real self, our real soul. Because sometimes we're in denial about who we really are. So what I'm saying is that we have tons of people in the internet wrestling community, IWC, just literally burning Hogan to the ground, like just
Yeah.
you know, terrorizing him. No one should be celebrating his death. No one should be doing this, doing that. Then there's some mixed community, could be all different authenticities that are separating the character from the human being. I mean, I'm not saying you can't do that, but not everyone's going to agree it to be that
Right,
way.
right, right.
Then you got people like you and I believe, or at least me, I'll speak for myself, that everyone can view this and do it how they want. If Hogan was a reason why you watched wrestling, then good. It's okay to be sad that something bad happened to Hogan. If you're, but if you're in denial about what he did, then that's where you're wrong. Because you got to accept all parts of people. I
Yeah.
hope that makes sense.
Yeah, and because I've like I said, I don't care about Hulk Hogan. I don't like Hulk Hogan. I don't he's not my definition of what pro wrestling can and should be. But there's no denying the impact that this guy made.
Do
And
you think? I mean, cut you off. Do you think wrestling would be where it is right now without him?
it's hard to tell. I mean, if you ask Dave Meltzer, I mean, he was in the thick of things. It's hard to tell. Because it really is because and it always goes back to the chicken or the egg situation, right? Like what made wrestling big? Was it Vince McMahon taking all these reckless opportunities to expand and to get every TV station, every TV time slot for his WWF brand and going all in with this WrestleMania thing? Um, would Was he the one that did it, or was it Hulk Hogan, who was already big to begin with at AWA, and was already doing movies? I mean, he was in Rocky,
Right.
and he was in cartoons. Well, no, the cartoons would come later, maybe a year after WrestleMania, I believe. Timelines are all over the place,
Right.
if you could tell. But
And
but
WrestleMania was named after Hulkamania, I believe. That's where that came from. Hulkamania started
it
first, I think.
it sounds right. Yeah, Hulkamania, and then people will argue, well, Hulkamania was he was doing that at AWA for Verne. So I mean, yeah, Hogan was able to take his celebrity, his newfound celebrity that he got in with the Rocky movie, and was able to parlay that into this bigger than life persona that was just a complete hit in Minnesota and everywhere else in the country where they were watching AWA, the American Wrestling Association, I believe is what the
Yep.
acronym stands for, the Verne Gagne run promotion. So Hogan was already big, and but he wasn't the only one that McMahon stole away from AWA, and he's definitely not the only it's definitely not the only promotion that he picked and plucked wrestlers to add to his stable. People complain about Tony Khan, signing all these wrestlers left and right. Well, how do you think Vince McMahon got big? How do you think his promotion got bigger than it was? He just, he bought out promotions, he bought out TV time slots, and he bought out talent.
And
I mean,
WWE is still doing the same thing right now. They bought
and they're
AAA.
yeah,
They're basically own TNA. I don't care what anyone says. You pretty
oh
much own
yeah,
TNA. If your talent in NXT developmental is taking belts off of Masha Slamovich and Joe Hendry and you won't give Mike Santana a shot at the belt, but you
yeah,
give putting the belt on Trick Williams. So WWE is doing the same thing. I mean, how many pieces of talent have they poached from AEW? I mean,
yeah.
come on.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
mean,
Ricky Stark suddenly now everybody loves him, but when he was in AEW, nobody liked him. They thought he was an overrated rock. Now that he's in NXT, like, oh, he's so awesome. I can't believe Tony fumbled that one big. Like, okay, Ethan Page was a non-factor in AEW, and you a lot of WWE fans didn't think much of Ethan Page. Ethan Page shows up on NXT, and suddenly oh man, I can't believe Tony let this. He has a look. He's a good speaker. He looks like $1 million out there. I can't believe Tony let
on
this happen
NXT for
on
right now.
NXT,
And I am an Ethan Page guy. I like
yeah,
all he does,
I
but
like
that's
Ethan Page. Yeah.
but again, that's NXT. Let's see if it blossoms up to the main roster.
Oh, and
But
by the
see,
way, he left. I'm sorry to cut you off, but he left TNA, and now he's doing matches with Santino, who's like the TNA authority figure. So it's like he really never left TNA. He went from TNA, AEW to NXT, and now he's back in TNA. So how is that? I don't know. To me, that's not progress, but whatever. That
I mean,
it is what it is.
from what I read, just to clear this up, from what I read, Ethan was actually out of his AEW contract. It wasn't like picked up or whatever, and he was going from an indie show, and then that's when he got the call from WWE about giving him a developmental, give him a deal at NXT. So it wasn't like, he went looking to go sign somewhere else. His deal was up, and they decided not to keep him at AEW for whatever
Yeah.
reason, but we'll never know why.
Yeah.
So at least he wasn't like, sitting home like others have, waiting for their contract to expire and then run over to WWE per se.
Right,
But
right, right.
but you're right. But the point to all this is that Vince, we all know about Black Saturday and how he took over the time slot for Georgia Championship Wrestling and how he tried to take everyone. I mean, he finally got you know, what's his name? Kerry Von Erich eventually, although, Kerry was, down, not really as big in his career at that point. Plus he had the
No, the leg.
motorcycle injury. Yeah, the leg
Yeah.
injury. So, but the point is that like, Vince did throw money just like Tony's doing now. So,
Yeah.
and here's the thing, I'm not mad at any talent that wants to sign anywhere. They all should get paid. They're putting their careers, their lives,
Their
their
bodies. Yeah.
their bodies on the line every time. So I'm not mad at anybody signing anywhere. I have friends, and it's tough, and I feel it for them because I understand the sports aspect, but they're running it into wrestling where, if you leave WWE, they're no longer a favorite no more because you left WWE. And it's just like, I don't understand that. It's not like, for instance, I'm a Yankee fan and Aaron Judge goes to the Red Sox, yeah, I'm gonna be butthurt about that. So, but that's baseball. It's sports. It's different. It's not. It's two different federations or
Yeah.
or promotions doing something different. They're not even wrestling in the same area. So what does it matter? It's not. It's not the same. So it's
Yeah.
kind of weird. That energy is weird to me, and I feel for those people that they stick to that. I don't know
Yeah.
why they do because sports is separate in that fandom aspect.
Right.
But I digress. I don't know.
But
It's just
to go back to your original question, would wrestling be as big as it ended up being without Hulk Hogan? And I mentioned Meltzer because he got into this Twitter debate like as he normally does, and he argues not. And I didn't have a chance to read what his reasoning was, but I mean, if you think about the early '80s, um, and it was still a healthy NWA. There were still territories, but there was fragments happening. But you still had guys like Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes. Now, I'm not saying they're as big as what Hogan ended up being, but who's to say that if McMahon just keeps to his territory, um, and Hulk Hogan does not leave maybe Vern Gagne comes to his senses and gives Hulk Hogan the belt and and he doesn't demand 90% of his revenue from t-shirt sales that he is willing to play ball and do these things for Hulk Hogan so he could stay and run and not have to lean so hard on Nick Bockwinkel or even himself, because Vern Gagne would give himself the belt a lot. And
right.
who's to say that, that the Von Erichs, because I think that's one of the guys what's his face, Meltzer mentioned that, yeah, well, if Kerry, I think you could make a case that Kerry Von Erich was ready to, and the fact that the NWA gave him the belt, I know it was because of David's death, but just the fact that they were confident enough to give him the belt. And EJ will tell you, yeah, they were ready to run with him, but 3 weeks later, he lost the belt to Ric Flair. So who knows? But I did see that Meltzer did cite Kerry Von Erich as someone who could who can make wrestling into another level. I mean, as you know, Harry, the Von Erichs were a huge deal in Dallas, and Dallas is a pretty big market. So maybe there's a case to be made there. But I know one thing. By the time my brother and I realized that Hulk Hogan was a real person and not just a cartoon character or not just some actor, that he was a real, quote unquote, real professional wrestler. I mean, that was our exposure to wrestling. Pro wrestling was, oh, this is the guy from like those movies, like Suburban Command. I don't know what year Suburban Commando and The Nanny came out, and I know that Rock and Roll was it Rock and Roll Wrestling, the cartoon, Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
I did double check that it did say 1985 through 87, but obviously those were reruns were done in the late 80s and early 90s, and we know who Hulk Hogan is because of that. At least my brother and I do. And then one day on a Saturday night, Wrestling Superstars syndication. and there's Hulk Hogan, and he's feuding with Sergeant Slaughter. And that was my, oh, that's that guy. That's that bald guy who is like this
Right.
big deal. Like he's an actor and he shows up on television and on late night shows. Like that's who he is. Wow, look at him. And imagine that. So this the cartoon character, right? And then who was he feuding at that time? Sergeant Slaughter. And like, wait, what the hell's going on here? And I guess that should have been an omen as to what WWF was all about back in those days. And maybe to a certain extent they still are to this day. But yeah, it was about these bigger than life cartoonish characters. And not necessarily like a sports theme presentation to it. It was more about theatrics and performance and storyline and character gimmicks. And me as a guy, as a kid, 7, 8, 9 years old, I was just starting to get into sports. And as you know, Harry, I'm super competitive. That's not what I'm about. But this guy, look at him. He has, as the kids would say, he has aura. And he's feuding with a G.I. Joe character. This is insane. And of course, right place, right time. It was during the first Iraqi war, and they're doing this. Sergeant Slaughter
Right. Right.
sympathizes with
Right.
the of all people, the
Right.
sympathizes with the
And,
Iraqi
and
government, and
he
it was
caught so
wild to
much
us.
heat. He caught so
Yeah.
much heat for that. 100% he did.
Wait, who
You know,
did Sergeant Slaughter or Hulk
yeah,
Hogan
yeah.
or
No, no,
McMahon?
no. Sergeant Slaughter drew heat from, being a turncoat and turning
Yeah.
on his country and all that. I mean, it was a big deal. It really was huge.
And yeah, and it was seen as insensitive, and the fandom kind of soured because they were expecting to do the show at the LA Coliseum, and then they had to do it at, I believe they ended up doing it at the Great Western Forum, and they cite the security concerns. But really, when I listened to the Laps fan recap that WrestleMania, it was because of low ticket sales. So in that aspect, I would argue that Hulk Hogan, because of him and him refusing to uh, you know, let go of his status for the good of the company, that was probably the first time that he was this close to killing the WWE from the inside because of him. And not to mention the steroid accusations, that would be probably the second time. Remember that oh yeah, oh I never did steroids. Well, I would if I did. I did a little bit of steroids at the, remember the Arsenio Hall
I remember.
interview. Yeah, and then he had to go, at the witness stand, and no one knew if he was gonna um be pro McMahon or anti McMahon, and then ended up that he did vouch for McMahon. Oh no, I never got steroids from him, dude. And it's the power of wrestling. Everybody, when the script is laid out and everybody knows the finish, everybody cooperates, right? So the McMahon, in the trial of his life, was able to get away with illegal distribution of steroids back in the early 90s. But that would have been the second time. He killed WCW. He almost killed TNA. So again, the question is stands: would wrestling be as big as it was? Perhaps, but I definitely, maybe, I don't know. It's hard to argue against it. I'm not gonna pretend that Hulk Hogan did not have an impact on my life, but you gotta take the good with the bad. He also almost ruined wrestling. He almost ruined the WWF numerous times. He killed one promotion because of his selfishness, and he almost killed the other one because of his greed. And so yeah, man, it's hard to put this guy on a pedestal when he, as for as good as we think of him that he's good for the sport, he also causes a great deal of harm to it as well.
No, he does. So I think the issue is that like some people didn't see Hulk enough, you know what I mean, or follow it closely. So like I do remember a little bit of like bits and pieces my father telling me about Hulk being in the AWA, but I think I was too young to actually remember it. My earliest memory is January 23rd, 1984, when he won his first belt against Sheik at Madison Square Garden.
The Iron Sheik
Um,
or the Sheik?
no,
There's a
Iron
different.
Sheik. No,
Okay,
Iron Sheik.
okay.
Um, and then because if I remember correctly, and I apologize for not looking it up first, but I believe there was a situation between Iron Sheik and Bob Backlund. And Sheik kind of stretched Bob Backlund out, put him in the camel clutch, and then Backlund somehow either was an injury thing or it was like part of a work. So Backlund brought in Hogan, and that's where Backlund brought in Hogan, and then Hogan went and won the belt. So
Oh
that's
my God.
so that
Isn't that the finish from the WrestleMania Las Vegas when what was it? I think
oh
Hart.
Bret Hart, yeah, and then Hogan he let Hogan go in for him.
Oh my
I think
God,
it
they repeated that storyline. Oh
no,
my
not
God.
exactly. It's a little different.
Okay.
I think Backlund hired Hogan as like a hired gun to go beat up Sheik type thing. I'd have to
Uh-huh.
revisit it. And I wish, shout out to John Sibarium. He was supposed to be on with us tonight. I should have mentioned that. He would have been able to recite all this for me. So because he's the historian in the family. I'm just a
Yeah.
wrestling fan. But anyhow, basically, and there was Backlund lost to Iron Sheik, and then at some point Backlund, basically said, I have a surprise for you, and he brought Hogan. Um, I don't think Backlund was actually supposed to wrestle him that night, so it's a little different of a storyline. But Backlund did get Hogan as like the hired gun, and Hogan wasn't the Hulkster yet. He was just Hulk Hogan, and like even the shirt says I think like American made or Great American or something. It
American
wasn't
made. Yeah, American
American
made. You're right.
made. It's like a maroon color shirt or something. So
Red, yeah.
right, with like white
Like,
lettering.
yep.
So it's not he wasn't larger than life yet. Like he was big and you could see the guy had a physique and all that, but he wasn't the megastar at that point. And then it all just kind of grew from there. And then like, you know, WWE always, made it more mainstream than it was for the pure wrestler. Corey Richmond and I always talk about that all the time on our podcast, where WrestleMania, SummerSlam, it's the Super Bowl for the in comparison. The NFL Super Bowl is not for you and I who are diehard Jets fans and Bears fans. They can give a rat's ass about that. They want the casual fan, which is I'm not saying there's anything against that, but they draw them in by bringing the celebrities and all that. So same thing in WWE. We talked about earlier off camera how our president right now is in the WWE Hall of Fame. Like what? And but like it's crazy. So
And to
like,
do a sports fin to it, right now, Caitlin Clark with the WNBA, whenever she's healthy again, she's because that's the biggest complaint about the Caitlin Clark brought all these stupid ass casuals. Like, yeah, ladies, it's mostly women who like. I'm in a WNBA group that I enjoy, but man, some of the stupid things that come out of these people's comments boxes up in these posts are pretty similar to some of the stuff I see from wrestling fans and wrestling groups. Not ours, though. Wrestling Purists is the best. We have the best, smartest wrestling fans. No, but it is. It's like, ladies, do you not know how sports work? You need this cash cow because you need the casuals because the hardcore is always going to be there, but the casuals are the extra oomph, right? That's the difference
and
between. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
and and the hardcores aren't necessarily spending the same
E-
amount of money.
Exactly what I was about to say.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so I have like maybe 10 shirts, right? But I'm not buying every shirt. I have like my 10 favorite shirts in wrestling. I have some wrestling memorabilia, but it's the casuals that have the bigger money that do it as an exciting thing or they do it for the corporation or whatever. I mean, there's the reason why the Knicks stunk from literally 2008 to like, I don't know, 2014. No, that's not true. Carmelo came out about 2011, but there
Yeah,
was a
that's right.
point there. Maybe it's like 2004 to like 2000, 2010, where the Knicks
Yeah.
stunk so much, but they sold out still regardless because every corporate entity in New York used to bring their clients or whoever they're trying to schmooze up to a Knick game.
Same
So
thing with the
again,
Bulls, man. Same thing with the
casual.
Bulls. Same thing with
Yeah,
the
so
Bulls. Yeah.
casual. So it's a cat, or maybe there are some fans, but like they would bring casual income coming in. So that's a separation. So my point of all that is Hogan was just great to draw and then draw other celebrities in.
Yep.
Pete Rose was in WWE at some point with an angle with Kane, right? Who else? I mean, now we got Jelly Roll right now. Jelly Roll
Yeah. And
is
then
in a
When Hogan was in the 80s, it was Cyndi Lauper.
Cyndi Lauper,
I'm trying to
Muhammad
remember
Ali.
Muhammad
Muhammad
Ali,
Ali was there. I mean, yeah, there's a ton. I
Mr.
mean,
T,
Mr. T,
who was
right?
a big freaking deal back in the 80s. So,
And
with the
both of
A
them,
team.
and both of them were Rocky's opponents in different movies.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
You know what I mean? Like,
So it always
so
goes back to Rocky and Sylvester Stallone over there. So yeah, I mean, like I said, there's really you can't question it at this point. It's that. But so what we're so basically the rest of it is just like okay. what else is there? What else is there to this guy? I did put in the notes that yeah, he was at the right hero at the right time, the perfect embodiment um, of what America thought of itself back in the 80s, and also what America should be, right? You know, say
Right.
your prayers, to train, to do your vitamins, fight evil because good always prevails. Um, and that just seemed to be the cookie cutter, black and white aspect of 1980s life here in America. And then the 90s came in, and well, it's not even because I think at some point in the late 80s, people were just tired of Hulk Hogan. And remember that he had to give up the belt to Ultimate Warrior, but Hulk Hogan does Hulk Hogan things and would not go out without a fight. Like
I
he
think it was
stole a lot of spotlight from Ultimate Warrior. Go ahead.
was that April 1st, 1990, I believe. I think that was
You know more than I do at
WrestleMania
this
six.
point. That
Yeah,
sounds about right. Yeah.
I think it was WrestleMania six. So, oh, and Suburban Commando came out in 1991.
That's
Um,
okay. No, that explains a lot then. Yeah.
yeah. So WrestleMania, yeah, it was WrestleMania six. I remember that because I believe it was in Toronto,
Yeah.
and that's when. But even like even Ultimate Warrior, who couldn't wrestle to save his neck, like he wasn't a technical wrestler, but he had the physique. He had some charisma, had some of the craziest promos ever. I mean, there's still a running joke about who drank more coffee or did more uppers or whatever between Macho Man and Ultimate Warrior because
Ooh,
they just were out
yeah.
of their they were just out of their mind with their promos. Like you
And that's another
really
one, by
think
the
they're a
way.
monster.
That's another one, by the way, that I saw a lot of people say, well, if it wouldn't be Hogan, then Randy Savage was definitely next in line if he would have gotten the same opportunities. And I'm thinking, that's a tough one. We love Randy Savage around these here parts, but that is a tough one to
Well,
say
that's
that you would have McMahon, that would have been his superstar guy that he would have leaned on. What were we
the
gonna say? I'm
same.
sorry.
No, the same comparison's always been made, and I started this somewhere, but Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. If
Mm,
Roman is the modern day Hulk, right, or whatever, and he carried WWE, somewhat through COVID, and even well, Drew did as well, and then you know when Roman came back from his little blimp with the
cancer.
cancer stuff, yeah,
Yeah,
he came back.
TNA saved WWE during the pandemic, by the way. Bobby
Yeah,
Lashley was also a big deal there.
he did, but Roman's their big draw, right? Roman's the top guy, yada yada. You know, Many would argue that uh, Seth Rollins is the Macho Man, comparison. He's the guy right under him or right next to him.
Yeah.
So it's funny how that works. So if Roman was never become Roman, you know, does Seth able to do that? You know what I mean? Like, so it's
Mm,
it's it's always interesting to see how that would work out.
yeah.
Like, but again, it's fantasy. We can't retract. I mean, I guess you can, but like where people retract Chris Benoit's career because of what happened
No,
with
because
him and his right. But can the IWC
some
or
people do. Some people do.
right? So um does the IWC or do you and I retract what Hogan did? Because I don't think what Chris Benoit did is the same as what Hogan did, right? Like Chris Benoit's situation, if he did do it, that's all I'm going to say. I don't want anybody coming after me.
He did
If
it.
Chris, if he did do it, you know, um, you know, he did something that's he's going to hell for. You know what I
It's
mean?
unforgivable. Yeah, it's
It's
unforgivable.
unforgivable. I'm not saying what Hogan did was right, and some people still say it's unforgivable, but it's different on the totem pole. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
that's
wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. I'm not saying it's not wrong, but at the same time, he didn't do what Chris Benoit did. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's all
So
relative, is what you're saying. And that's what I was trying to get at when I was explaining this to my daughter, and I had like an epiphany. Well, was it really bad? I mean, it's bad. But was it like it's not like that's why I mentioned Buck Zumhoff and for those who don't know who Buck Zumhoff was, also from the AWA, and he was accused of having sexual relationships with his daughter, his
ugh.
you know daughter, bro. It's like can you imagine like the type of person you have to be? Now that's evil. So that's why it's all. That's why I started thinking, well, was he bad? I mean, was he Jimmy Snuka where he killed someone allegedly, where he killed his girlfriend? Was he Fritz von Erich where he had his five of his six no, well, four of his six boys commit suicide because he pushed them too hard? No, that's not Hogan. Hogan knows best. Well, no, not really, because we were gonna find out. Maybe he didn't know as good as he thought he did. But I mean, is he Vince McMahon? If we are to believe a lot of the allegations that have been made against him over the years, and a lot of the stuff that he hid over the years, with boys getting molested by his crew, and he just denying it and protecting uh his personnel, and protecting guys like Pat Patterson, who also got accused of the same thing. Um, so yeah, who it's all relative. So in the grand scheme of things, maybe it wasn't as evil as some of these other evil things that were done in pro wrestling over the years. I mean, you and I can sit here and just start spewing back and forth of all the nonsense that has gone on in the sport with their wrestlers, with the in-ring performers.
Right.
But I think that what I came to the conclusion was, listen, man, I guess we can forgive, and we as people of color, we can forgive, but we can't forget, right?
Nor should you.
Nor should we. I mean, but that's what we're
I
here to
don't.
talk about. Go ahead.
I don't forget, and
Yeah.
I am not a person of color. So I mean, it's obvious, right? Like but I don't forget, and
Yeah.
I've hold that to Hogan, and you know, and then, like I said in my personal post on my page, I hope that wherever he is trying to be a better person and make amends for his mistakes.
Yeah.
And if he did do that, like someone had mentioned somewhere, and became a full blown Christian, a year and a half ago or whatever. And I'm paraphrasing because I didn't can't quote it, but that's what I read. I believe in iHeart Wrestling or even Wrestling Purist. One of them, someone said it. I hope he did do it and he took it seriously for the right reasons. If he does have that belief and that he tried to make amends because that is the right thing to do. I don't care what you believe in, but to be a good person, you're to make amends for your mistakes, and that's
Yeah.
what you're supposed to do. Because even when you show, something that evil, either you are that evil and you never see the mistake you made, or you eventually become a better person.
Hmm.
Right? If someone goes to jail and they did their time, are they supposed to be in jail for life? Depending on depending on the crime, yes.
Hmm.
But if it's something that is, not as serious as say a murder, say it's just a burglary, and you're in jail for I don't know 3 to 5 years. I don't know what the proper terms are, but I'm saying that person's supposed to be able to have a second chance at becoming a better person, right? Like that is the difference. So hopefully Hogan can find that. The problem with Hulk Hogan is Hulk Hogan ended up being bigger than life. Hulk Hogan ended up being the biggest draw in wrestling history at one point.
Hmm.
And so people who are at least 40 years old and older still remember that. Maybe
Yeah.
even ones in their 30s may remember Hollywood Hogan per se. Maybe, right? Because when did Hollywood Hogan happen? 96, I think.
96. Yeah, you're right.
So
96.
I'm graduating high school at that point. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm literally 18 years old. Um, so again, it's one of those timelines where I was mad as shit that he turned and became part of the NWO.
Yeah.
I never thought Hulk Hogan would go heel. I never thought John Cena would go heel.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's the only comparison I can give is the biggest baby face of all time, and then the second biggest baby face probably of all time, turned heel. The only one that had a short cup of coffee of going heel was Sting. Sting joined the Horsemen for what, like a week? And then or maybe it was a month. It was a short cup of coffee. And then he was supposed to challenge Flair for the belt. And Ole told him, "You're Ole or Arn. I think it was Ole. You're not going to do this. You're going to stop what you're doing now." And Sting said, "What do you mean?" And then Flair turned on him and they beat the heck out of him in the ring. So I think that was early 90s. Would have to double check. But I did fact check the WrestleMania 6. That was
Hmm.
April 1st, 1990.
Okay.
That's when Hogan, gave, and maybe he was shooting Suburban Commando. Maybe that's why that happened. Maybe that's why he passed the torch. Um, or maybe he just did it for the sake of doing it. But the Hogan thing is that I'm not sure. I mean, wrestling would still be around. I'm not saying it wouldn't be. I'm not sure it would be the exact same. I think McMahon and Hogan were the perfect recipe for, attention,
Hmm.
draw, drama, toxicity, all of it, and that's what this world kind of feeds on. It's terrible, but that's what we are lured to. Not
Yeah.
everyone. You didn't care for Hogan. I will admit I loved Hogan. I loved Warrior more than Hogan. I'll tell you why. I loved the face paint.
Hmm.
Some of my favorite wrestlers of all time, Sting, the Road Warriors, Ultimate Warrior, all wore face paint. I was a big face paint guy. I don't know why. It's a sensory thing, I guess. I don't know. I have no real good excuse, but I liked it. So
Well, I
yes,
guess.
I liked Hogan, but Warrior was my guy. But Hogan, you wanted to root for the guy that was gonna, he made you believe that he actually cared about you, saying
Hmm.
your prayers and eating your vitamins, and he was able to be larger than life and be that hero that people wanted.
Yeah, my problem was I only got caught this stuff in syndication, so hard to find TV shows that WWE had
Right.
around, but we found them. I mean, it was right after the Three Stooges. There was Wrestling Superstars or Shotgun or whatever those shows were. Velocity, I don't know, it's late night, Saturday nights.
I remember. Yeah.
And it got to a point where my brother and I got frustrated. Man, this Hulk Hogan, all he does is show up in vignettes, and we're getting the updates with his feud in the feud between him and Sergeant Slaughter. But when is he gonna actually wrestle? I want to see him wrestle. But you know who would be there regularly were guys like Razor Ramon and Bret the Hitman Hart, and those were the guys. I don't know. I can't speak for my brother, but those were definitely the guys that I gravitated towards. Because they were there and they were wrestling. I'm a sports guy. Like I want to see action. If you say
Right.
you're the best, prove it. Don't just talk about it. Don't just show up in vignettes or in video highlights. Prove it every time I turn on the TV.
Well,
And go
that
ahead.
was the That was the problem with Brett, though. I'm not saying it's a problem for me, but I'm saying that I'm seeing it as possibly through Vince's eyes or through the internet, or not internet, the wrestling community at that time. I don't think there was internet, but but my point is that Hogan was more mouth. Hogan
Mm,
wrestled 4 times a year.
hmm.
Back then, it was only a pay-per-view every 3 months. It wasn't every month back then.
Yeah.
90s, it started to go that way, but 80s, I don't remember 80s. You had Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series. That was it.
That sounds about right. And
That, that,
those last three came out way later. Well, Survivor
right,
Series was an answer to Starcade, as McMahon wanted cable providers to stop airing Starcade.
correct.
Otherwise, you're gonna air Survivor Series, you're not gonna air Starcade, or you can kiss WrestleMania goodbye next season.
Right, I
And
remember that.
cable providers said, "Oh, well, screw this." And then that's why Starcade ended up being a New Year's Eve pay-per-view as opposed to the traditional Thanksgiving that it used to be in the early '80s. Anyway, I digress. But no, you're right. I know that's a lot of what a lot of people said. Less exposure meant that Hulk Hogan didn't need to do much to remain being a draw. And I
Right.
get that, but yeah,
I'm not saying
go
it's
ahead.
right. I'm just saying that so the transition to Bret Hart, because Bret was champ in WWF, WWE, whatever you want to call it. It was still WWF. Bret
Yeah.
was champ. Bret was a better wrestler than almost the entire locker room, right? I mean, technically
Yeah.
sound, Bret Hart was the best wrestler.
Oh yeah.
Um, he didn't have Shawn Michaels' charisma.
No, no.
He didn't have Hogan's aura or charisma or physique. I mean, Bret was cut, don't get me wrong, but he wasn't larger than life. So, and that's what McMahon was drawn to, the big puffy guy.
Yeah,
He
and the
was
only
drawn to the big puffy guy. He was.
no, I'm laughing at the notion of Puff Daddy that's what McMahon is into, which might be true. Maybe he was in those street
I
gloves.
wasn't. No, no.
That's
The big puffy guy was what Ultimate Warrior used to always called Triple H.
okay.
When Warrior was alive, doing YouTube videos and saying things, he wouldn't say Triple H's name, but he'd call him the big puffy guy. So because he was obviously that he was roiding up or what, I don't know, whatever
Yeah.
the innuendo was. So I was just kind of taking that from Warrior, but
Yeah. And the reason
continue.
that, and just to finish that little thing there is that the reason Bret Hart even got a chance was because McMahon was under fire because of the steroids trial. So he was definitely looking for more clean, lean cut guys. And
Correct.
ironically
Correct.
enough, I believe Hart did admit that he was using steroids for both physical and for recovery. So he's not. And again, if you really if you read Bret Hart's book, I mean that thing is full of controversies. It's a confessional more than anything. But that's what I always love Bret Hart. I'm a Bret Hart guy till the day I die, and I'm Bret Hart, Team Bret all the way. And that was the guy I looked up to. You know why, Harry? Because he made it real. He made it real. He made it a real sporting event for a guy who was just trying to find himself. A kid, actually, not a guy, a kid who's trying to find himself and was trying to. Uh, I don't know what the hell I was looking for. Oh, well, I know what I was looking for. I was looking for some sort of connection with other people, just like you. I was looking for, another 8-year-old Harry Sibarium in my world that we can have a connection with. But at the end of the day, it was for me. If this is pro wrestling and you're telling me it's on the level that it's real, then I want to see wrestling matches. I want to see if you're gonna be talking that you're the best of all time, prove it. And Bret Hart would prove it and would just show up every weekend, and Hulk Hogan would only show up on vignettes. And my decision was made. Well, screw this Hulk Hogan guy. This Bret Hart guy is the real deal here. Razor Ramon, I mean, look at him. He's able to pulverize opponents like nothing. And where's Hulk Hogan? Last I saw him, he was draped over. His whole body was draped with an Iraqi flag. So what does that say about him? So I mean that's the logic that a 8 year old Felipe had back in the day, but ultimately, my point was that Hogan is the one who brings you into the dance, but he's not the reason why you stay at the dance. Bret Hart is the reason you stay at the dance. Razor Ramon is the reason you stay at the dance. I wasn't a big Shawn Michaels fan, so f that guy. I'm trying to remember who else was around during that time in the early '90s, but I'm drawing a blank here. Here, I guess Legion of Doom were they in the early '90s too? Legion of
Some,
Doom.
yeah, somewhat at that point. I mean, the Steiner brothers were still big at that point, and they did more, ring
Yeah,
mat and technical wrestling. I mean, it's sad Scott Steiner became, what he is because before the big Papa Pump gimmick and all that, Scott Steiner was like the ultimate five tool like wrestler. Like
yeah.
he,
I remember enjoying the Steiner brothers too. I like the Steiner
yeah,
brothers when the little that I saw, I should say.
yeah. So like in the '90s there for a bit, you had like Sid Vicious, or they called him Sid Justice. He was like a top heel, like like 94, 95. You had Diesel, which is Kevin Nash before he went to WCW. So and then you had guys like Razor Ramon, like you mentioned, who Scott Hall, his name is Scott Hall, obviously rest in peace. Kurt Hennig, rest in Mr.
Yeah,
Perfect.
rest in
Mr.
peace.
Perfect, Mr. Perfect never got a championship run. Mr.
No,
Perfect was one of the best wrestlers ever. I
yeah.
mean, never made it past the mid card. Like, how does a guy like that, who was so good, never get past the mid card? So my point being, is it Hogan holding these people back?
And that's my next point is like, where's his legacy? Because when we were talking about Terry Funk, and especially after listening to the Laps fan, they they made it a point of emphasis to say if there's a big time wrestler that you know and care about, odds are he had to get through Terry Funk to get to where he was. And they just started listing them, the Jerry Lawlers, the Dusty Rhodes. Hell, Dusty Rhodes and Terry Funk were wrestling in their well into their 60s in the early to mid 2000s.
Terry Funk was wrestling in ECW against Tommy Dreamer,
And there's another one.
making Dreamer over. I know people think what they want about Dreamer now because he's older and everything,
Oh,
but
please.
but
I mean, he
you
was
you
big.
you think of ECW, you
Tommy
think of
Dreamer.
Tommy Dreamer versus Raven,
Yep.
Taz versus Sabu.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do Raven versus Sandman, because of how personal it got. If it was a work or not, whatever, it still got personal. And then you could do the Eliminators versus the Gangsters.
And
But
most importantly, Cactus Jack, Mick Foley.
right.
Uh, yeah.
Or
If there, go ahead.
no, but even I'm just thinking RVD versus Sabu, RVD versus Jerry Lynn. But the first one that comes to mind is Tommy Dreamer and Raven. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, and yeah, I think I mentioned Taz and Sabu, but like,
No, no, you're right though. It was Tommy Dreamer. That's the
and
epitome of what ECW was.
And Terry
Uh,
Funk is the one that put him over to get him to be that guy.
exactly. That's my point. And I mean, he and Terry Funk would do the same thing with for Mick Foley and who else? Oh, CM Punk apparently. CM Punk would also get the rub from Terry Funk on his way to superstardom. And then you got to ask, okay, what's Hogan's legacy? Billy Kidman? No, that didn't work out. Ultimate Warrior? No, that didn't work out. Randy Savage? Well, come on. Randy Savage could hold his own. We were just talking about him. Like perhaps in a different world, in a different landscape, maybe it's Randy Savage who ends up being the bigger than life superstar. We'll never know.
Did he
But
put over? Did he put over X-Pac?
who,
No,
Hulk Hogan?
no, he didn't. And if anything,
Oh, the
you
one, two,
know,
three kid or whatever.
six is in the NWO one week. The following week, he's kicked out, and
Hmm.
he becomes X-Pac in Degeneration X
Ugh,
in WWE, and X-Pac is telling Hogan, "You could stick it, Hulk." You know what I mean? Like on live TV, on Monday Night Raw.
that's right. I
Like
remember now. I remember now. Yeah.
so it's like, so yeah. So as much as maybe my younger age self liked Hogan because I didn't know better, right? I'm like 7, 8, maybe 6, whatever age I am at that time, right? As I got older, I started to realize that Hogan was more of a very, very selfish and agenda oriented, if he meant to or not. Now, you hear stories from people. I heard a story from DDP
Yeah.
just on Busted Open recently because I was doing some yard work today and didn't want to talk to, so I was listening to a podcast for the heck of it. And supposedly, Hogan's the one that got DDP over to do the whole Karl Malone, Dennis Rodman situation. I don't know if you remember that whole thing, but you know,
Yeah.
they had Diamond Dallas Page doing house shows, I guess in Germany somewhere because his God given name is like a German last name, and the crowd goes nuts. And Hulk happened to be somehow over there for whatever reason, stops him, and he always called Diamond DDP Diamond, and Diamond always called him Hulk. They never called
Mm.
each other by their real names. And I'm paraphrasing the story, but Hogan basically says, "I see you've been putting in the work." And he goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "But why aren't you on TV?" He goes, "Oh, they have me doing this." And he goes, "You're doing this because they're trying to groom you to, to get you into your craft. You're doing great. Keep it up."
Hmm.
And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." So Diamond's gonna ask for his release so he can go up to WWE and do whatever. And then, Dusty's telling him he's doing well. He's, a couple different people telling him, Jake the Snake Roberts, and it's all on the Busted Open, episode with Dave LaGreca. But anyway, so finally, Hogan brings in, uh, gets Diamond to come into a room, and Bischoff's there, and Hogan tries to pitch something, and Bischoff goes, "All right, I'll talk to the, people above me and see what they think." He comes back to him 2 days later. Diamond, I got bad news. They don't believe in it, so I'm sorry, but I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna give you a release. You go to New York, make a name for yourself. I bring you back a year or two later, and I give you more money than you'd even imagine. Diamond goes, "You know what's funny? I was going to ask for my release, but you know what? The fact that Hogan just co signed for me, nah, I don't want my release. I'm going to earn it here." And then it ended up happening. So, for all the bad things that Hogan did do, I hope Diamond's not lying about it. I don't think he would. But
There, there is something else to that story. 'Cause I'm thinking here, like there was something that the last fan used to discuss about Diamond Dallas Page. The other benefit, I mean, that's great that Hogan did co-sign it. I mean, I'll assume it's true. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him. They both lived in Florida, so. But the other thing about DDP was that he was somebody's neighbor, and I can't remember who he lived close by, whether it be Bischoff, Kevin Nash in Florida, or even
I,
Hulk Hogan.
no, I think it was Bischoff because he got Bischoff the job there.
So there you go. And so there, I mean, maybe it was always, it was always destiny that DDP was going to be just fine in WCW because he always had that strong connection with the power that be over there in Eric Bischoff. But it's a big deal when Hogan is also vouching for you. So I'm not going to put it like, up against DDP. And I'm not saying, well, I don't know. So when did he say that? Did he say that before Hogan died, a year ago, or after Hogan died?
He's told the story before,
Okay.
but he told the finishing part about how, that last part where like he just, he disclosed more of it.
Okay. After
So
he died.
right, right, which was sometime this past week. It was like a,
No.
you know, because you get, I guess obviously Busted Open has like 24/7 now, and good for them. Congrats to them. But
Yeah.
you can go on Spotify and get like half-hour pieces or hour pieces here and there that they'll put on Spotify the next day. And since I'm a Spotify guy, it's just easier just to do that. I
Right,
don't
right,
have,
right.
I don't have Sirius. I tried it, it just wasn't a fan.
No, I'm a Spotify guy
So
myself. Maybe
yeah,
that's why we get
so
along so well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I still listen to Pandora once in a while too if I want to switch it up, but mostly, for my podcasting, I'm a Spotify guy. And so
So it sounds like pretty much it was a combination of things, like Hogan giving him the big sign off and the rub and okay, so one guy he helped make DDP without actually fighting DDP, but that's it. I'm trying to think like who else. I mean, because he always wanted to fight the big, blobby, humongous wrestlers because they made him look good. He refused to put over Bret Hart. That's why they had to make that screwy finish in that one WrestleMania Las Vegas where he comes out and defeats Yokozuna because he was so pissed off that at how badly screwed Bret Hart got in that match. I think that was where Mr. Fuji, is that the guy's name? Mr. Fuji? Yokozuna's old manager?
yes, Mr. Fuji.
He threw salt in Bret Hart's face, and Hogan saw it, and he got offended, and somehow he got a title shot and was able to win the championship right off of Yokozuna's bit larger waist. And then the last finishing touches is the I don't know if you knew about this story, but at Hogan goes towards the main entrance, walks his way back to the entrance, and who's there waiting for him is Vince McMahon, and McMahon is crying like a baby because his guy is back. Hogan is back in WWF with the championship. All is right in the world, and you could tell that McMahon, what he thought about Hogan, just because of that burst of emotion. And like I always tell you, man, these wrestling promoters, when they have their superstars and they latch onto them for dear life until they can't no more. To the very, I mean, you saw with Bischoff. To the very end, he latched onto Hogan as they were getting ready to embark on a new wrestling promotion to the very end. He latched onto him in the 90s. He latched onto him during the TNA years. And to the very end of Hogan's life, he latched onto him and did not let go, just the same way that Vince McMahon was able to do so in the 80s, 90s, and a little bit of the 2000s, I guess you can argue. But that these promoters, man, they when they have their meal ticket, they don't let go for nothing. So I'm not surprised that McMahon would also burst into tears when Hogan came back for that WrestleMania. And you know what? I don't even why am I talking about that WrestleMania anyway? What were we talking about before this? Oh, right, the one because he always had to fight the big guys. That's why he was
Right,
more willing to wrestle Yokozuna and refused to wrestle Bret Hart, even though he did promise Bret Hart.
right,
Oh
right.
yeah, dude. Oh yeah, I'll promise. Yeah, you're gonna get a match with me, dude. That never happened.
So
Never happened.
WrestleMania 9 was where Brett lost the belt to Yokozuna,
Okay,
right?
that's
And then sends Hogan in for him, and Hogan challenges Yokozuna and then pins him and wins, which obviously, which obviously is a Vince move. Ironically enough, I don't mean it, it's funny how you brought up how much Vince is in love with Hulk. So I obviously I live in Connecticut, right? And so like, WWE headquarters is like, 45 minutes to an hour from me, and I pass it once in a while when I'm down in Stanford, no big deal. It's not at the original
yeah, they
Titan
moved. Yeah.
Towers. They moved, but it's still like 3 minutes away from it. But Vince McMahon gets into a car accident
Hmm.
in his Bentley,
Mm.
literally around the same time Hulk Hogan is announced
Oh yeah,
that
he was
he must have got. I mean, I'm assuming. I have no proof, but the police report says he was driving 80 to 90 miles an hour, swerving in and out of traffic. A state off-duty state police officer is following him, goes to put the lights on, just puts them on, and like spoofs McMahon to some degree, hits the woman on the left side because he tried to swerve, he didn't see her, and thankfully, if he didn't swerve, that lady probably would no longer be here.
right.
Both cars are totaled. He's got hit with a summons or something, and then
Reckless driving. Yeah.
yeah, reckless driving. But so even on Hogan's dying day, McMahon is upset and obsessed with Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. He was going through it. He was going through it, and I bet you when he heard the sirens, he thought, "Oh, is Raw on? I'm late." Because remember that then since we're talking about the early 90s, woo, 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 it's Monday Night Raw. Oh yeah. Anyway, obviously we talked about the good. We talked a little bit about the bad, the politicking, the refusal to work with uh smaller wrestlers, refusing to job ever, refusing to do what's right for the business and the promotion, did not get anybody over except for DDP apparently. And then even then he didn't have to fight him to get him over. But he always had to fight the big guys, the blobby guys, things that wrestlers that made him look bigger and stronger. It really is becoming like a thing where like every time he defeat a big blobby guy, he just consumed them and then his powers would just grow and grow and grow with every more difficult opponent he would thrash. It really it's really something out of a cartoon. I mean,
It sounds like you're portraying the villain in Fantastic Four.
I'm telling you, brother. I mean that I can't help but think about that. I mean because those are his actions. I mean because you saw what other guys did. I mean look what Bret Hart did for Steve Austin. There would be no
I,
attitude era if
you,
it wasn't for Bret Hart.
you stole my thunder. I'm glad you brought that up. See, this is
Why
why we're friends.
Why
This
are
is
these
I was
guys
gonna
talking about
get
Bret
there
Hart? Like, I can only imagine. Why are these guys talking about Bret Hart on a Hulk Hogan show? I don't get it.
because Bret Hart put Stone Cold Steve Austin over. That's why. I don't mean to
And
yell, but
and
that's why.
and if you want to go that route, for better or for worse, he put Shawn Michaels over.
He did.
Yeah, got him
He
back that
did.
smile. Or I always forget that. What's the timeline there? No, no. Was it Shawn Michaels lost his smile because he was gonna lose to Steve Austin, or he lost to Steve Austin, or did he lose his smile because he was gonna lose to Bret Hart? I can't keep track when this guy.
I think it was he lost his smile. He was going to lose to Stone Cold because that's when Triple H came out, took over DX, and he said that Bret dropped the ball or something like that.
What a baby. Bunch of bitches over there, I swear to God. Anyway, so yeah, Steve Austin was made by Bret Hart for whether you believe it or not. That's the truth. That's what happened. Anyway, go on.
No, I mean you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. I mean, yes, I mean Stone Cold had that, great, promo at the King of the Ring and all that, which, started the process, but you needed a top guy to put him over. That's how that works.
Yeah,
Eventually, you're supposed to put over the talent to make them bigger than life. Andre the Giant put over Hulk Hogan,
that's true. Yeah,
WrestleMania 3.
that's right.
And he wasn't even that healthy at that point. He was in
No,
actually bad shape,
really bad shape
but he still put over Hogan.
because
So
that was what was best for business, apparently. And so everybody's sacrificing their bodies, but when it's time for Hogan to do so, no, that's not gonna work for me, brother. Sorry, dude, I'm not gonna do that. Matter of fact, I'm actually gonna vacate the belt and I'm gonna shoot these movies, dude. But maybe I'll be back, and who knows? Maybe you'll be the first in line. We'll see, brother. Just talk to Vince about it. I'm sure he'll be fine with that. And, I mean, Shawn Michaels learned the hard way, right? Shawn Michaels got a taste of his own medicine, you know. Where and what was it, a SummerSlam where Hogan said, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'll drop. You'll drop to me, but I owe you a match in the future." And then Hogan, "Oh, dude, sorry, man, just things came up. I'm not gonna be able to return the favor for you, brother, but I do appreciate you doing the job for me, so to speak." Was it the SummerSlam where Shawn Michaels was like over exaggerating every single bump to the point where Hogan got really pissed off about it and threw his bandana at
I
him for
I believe so, yes.
so it's poetic justice that Shawn Michaels got a taste of his own medicine. So two of the most hated guys in my life in the same ring, and they're all pissy at each other because the other one refuses to do the job for the other, and Shawn Michaels ended up being on the short end of that stick. But it's poetic justice, is what I see there. But yeah, I mean, he couldn't even put over Shawn Michaels, like a lot of people's goat, a lot of people's favorite in-ring persona. Hogan could not be bothered. He's just too small, dude. No, I mean I could be Brock Lesnar, dude. Yeah, yeah, maybe if I drop to Brock Lesnar and he just loses to me like three for the next 3 or 4 matches, I think like that I can make that work, dude. So he definitely put over the Rock. Remember that
Yeah, I was just gonna
WrestleMania,
say that he put over The Rock, but again,
but
how
not
how how
but
late
not
in the game was that? How late in
and,
the game was that?
and not before he put himself forward. Was it in Toronto, right? The Toronto crowd. I know that the Toronto crowd loves Hulk Hogan. Was that in Toronto? Do you remember when he was black and white and he's facing The Rock and and it ended up being like people. It had to be Toronto because they're like the biggest goobers for Hogan up there in the north, and the whole crowd started chanting for him. Hogan, Hogan, like it was like return of the '80s, and he hulked up and everything, and massive eye roll from me, man. Like this is why I don't watch WWE, but that's what happened, and
You know what?
he,
You're right. It was the iconic icon versus icon match.
my God.
Hogan The Rock, WrestleMania 18, I believe it was. March 17th, 2002 at the Sky Dome in Toronto.
I don't even watch. I stopped watching wrestling by then. And somehow I knew about this. Harry, I don't know how I know about this stuff. I was already lapsed by then. WCW went under, and I said, "Oh, screw this. I'm not watching this crap anymore." You took away my favorite wrestling promotion. Yeah, it had its flaws, but at least it wasn't WWF. Anyway, anyway, I was gonna say, but yeah, he did lose to The Rock, but not before he got himself over with the crowd where The Rock now looks like the a-hole for not doing the job for Hogan. And The Rock, I'm not sure if he admits to this or not, but I know with the Laughs fan, I always cite the Laughs fan for everything, did say, and that's when The Rock learned. He learned a lot from Hogan that night, I tell you that much. And that was the last time that that anyone was going to pull a fast one on The Rock ever again. Like The Rock knew better than to be on the short stick of that. Yeah, he won, but he felt small afterwards. If you understand what I'm trying to say here, like he felt small even though he beat Hogan that night. So you can't trust Hogan, man. You gotta be on that swivel. You can't just let him have his moment because he will steal the spotlight. Ask the Ultimate Warrior. Oh wait, you can't because he's dead. Sorry, but no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say it like that, but they all learned the hard way that yeah, even when Hogan loses, he always comes out on top, dude. He always comes out on top. Anyway, um,
I mean, but for all his selfishness, he still made wrestling, larger than life in a lot of aspects. Even when he was in WCW and
yeah,
he was in the NWO, I mean, whoever thought that would have happened? When he came out, everyone, at least I thought, maybe I was naive or gullible, but I thought that he was going to, stop these, outsiders, and then sure enough, he drops the leg who's a Macho Man of all people, right? It was
yeah,
on Macho Man of
that's
all
okay.
people.
He would end up joining the NWO too, so it's
Yeah,
all
I know.
poetic. It's all poetic, man. Yeah, but that's my point. It's like everything that speaks volumes to Hogan's legacy is just geared towards himself. Like, not only would he make wrestling bigger, but like you just mentioned the villain character who just he keeps getting stronger for every opponent he defeats. That's all it was just feeding him and feeding him and feeding him. And the bigger he got, the more in trouble WCW got. The bigger he got, the more it was difficult to take that belt away from him. The more difficult it was to put anybody over in WWF. The more difficult it was for him to convince him to put anybody over in WCW or to even do a coherent storyline at TNA or to tell him no, Hogan. You can't say no to Hogan. You're paying him at TNA, you're paying him too much money to say no to him.
Well, because Hogan knows best, supposedly, right?
And then we get to that point, right? Like this, did Hogan know best? Did Hogan really know best? I mean, and I think I told you guys this, but when Hogan knows best, that's it for him. That's the peak that Hogan would reach. That would be the last peak of his life in my is what I would argue. Because after Hogan knows best, he goes to TNA and it just goes downhill, down, 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 down. But I'm not gonna deny it. I mean, all Hogan knows best proved was just how big of a mainstream character he was, because that show kept VH1 afloat for a while. I'm not gonna deny that. I'm not saying it saved VH1, but it was a very popular show on VH1. If I remember correctly, I think it was on VH1 or one of those
Yeah, I
networks.
think it was on VH1.
Okay, so my mind's not going that crazy. But no, but he was able to parlay that popularity to get one more run as a TNA character. But by then, he was decrepit. He was gonna be there as a what do you call it? An authority figure,
Right.
and you're paying him a six-figure salary to be an authority figure.
He was trying to push Jeff Hardy. Remember, like Jeff Hardy was the Antichrist or something, or the
The
uh
yeah, the Antichrist, right? The
yeah,
evil
yeah,
Jeff
yeah,
Hardy with the immortal
and
belt.
right, right. I mean, it was rough. It was some rough days there, which kind
Yeah.
of tarnished his career in a way. It really, and then we get to the ugly, but the videotape and his marriage to Linda and all that. But I feel like, I mean, I'll speak for myself. He's still on the Mount Rushmore. I don't see how he's not.
No, you can't take him away, unfortunately.
You
With all
can't,
these things, you can't take him away. He's not in my personal Mount Rushmore of like guys that I would
right.
go back
But
and watch and have him as my favorite wrestler. But no, I mean,
right,
if you're gonna have him as the ultimate Mount Rushmore without any biases, of course it's Hogan. Of course
right.
it's Austin and The Rock, and I guess you could put John Cena there now as the and they're all from WWE because
You
no,
know, wait, hold on. You don't put Flair there? Flair goes in
nah.
before Rock.
No, I just think The
Flair,
Rock. I think The Rock proved his. If part of the if we're gonna credit Hulk Hogan for having mainstream appeal, you got to put The Rock up there for the same thing too. Then, and there's another guy who has a lot of controversial um, segments in his professional career, and most of it coming outside of the ring. The Rock, but the day The Rock dies, everybody's gonna be sad about it. No one's gonna care of his shortcomings in Hollywood or how he would big league Brock Lesnar when Brock Lesnar was starting out or how he was on so much juice that he had to get surgery to remove his tits and he had to wear like long sweatsuits just to cover his breasts because they were getting too big from all that hormone use that he was getting and stuff and how he got booed off the stage at the very beginning of his career and no one's gonna care about that. The day The Rock dies is gonna be a really sad day. And that's my point that it just wasn't that universal feeling that I was anticipating when Hogan died. Like I said, that's
well, it's a
and
little
that's what
different.
yeah.
It's a little different because Hogan's older. You know what I mean? Like it's not like if The Rock dies right now, everyone knows The Rock from a different angle. You know what I mean? Like yes,
Oh,
The Rock's had some bad publicity, but it's not the same bad
no,
publicity
no,
as
yeah,
Hogan's
of course.
had.
I'm just saying it's still controversial. I mean, it's
Right? It's
I
still
mean,
controversial.
Black Adam. I mean, you talk to any Black Adam fans and any fans of Shazam, and no, they hate him. The DC universe hates that guy because he they ruined a beloved comic book character.
I
So
that's
there's
fair.
that.
I get that.
But
Um,
it's a small segment, right? Like because it's still The
right,
Rock. But say The Rock lives to how old did Hogan? Was 71 years old? What
right.
happens if The Rock lives on to 71 years old and he also dies of a heart attack from all that juicing that he's doing, right? Well, that's the other one. Yeah, that everybody says, oh yeah, it can't be just a codfish. He's definitely on something. He just won't admit to it. And he's a corporate shill, and people call him out on it. And he's just, I mean, he's everything that people hate about Hogan. He's just a vessel for someone to be someone's mouthpiece. That's what Hogan was, and that's what people hate about Hogan. And well, one of the reasons they hate Hogan is because he's a mouthpiece for the highest bidder, and so is The Rock, and people see right through it. So, but what happens if The Rock dies at 71 years old? You don't think? I mean, you have to admit that even at The Rock at a very old age, people are going to be sad because it's still The Rock, right?
I get that, but so you're telling me Ric Flair is not on the Mount Rushmore?
It's hard because I love Ric Flair,
And
but
and
it
and he's done
just
his own dumb antics and weird shit as well. Not as
and
much as necessarily. Well, I don't know. I guess that's the public opinion.
everybody has a controversial
Yeah,
past, but when
except for
Ric
John
Flair,
Cena. Except for John Cena, supposedly.
well, apparently he mistreats women
Oh
and
yeah, I forgot about that. You're right.
yeah,
75 page contract
uh-huh.
for let Nikki live in a house.
Didn't he get rid of someone because after he was done having sex with them, he decided that it was too awkward to be around them, so he forced that woman to be released from WWE. I'm a little hazy, and maybe it wasn't him, maybe it was Randy Orton or Dave Batista. I don't remember. I want to say it was John Cena because that's something that John Cena would do. Hey Vince, I don't feel comfortable with this lady here. We had a little hookup there, and now she's obsessed with me, and I don't feel safe. you do something about that? Yeah, sure, pal. She's gone. I I'll have to rehash that, research that story again, but I'm pretty sure it was John Cena who got some. Maybe it was Maria Kanellis. I don't know. I don't remember. Maybe you know more because you were still a wrestling fan when I was not. But John Cena is not the saint that his Make a Wish Foundation would have you believe that he is either. They all come with problems, and that's my point. Is like, well, Ric Flair. I mean, he has a lot of issues, and he just got exposed literally because he exposed himself in a flight to a flight attendant, and that kind of tarnishes his legacy a little bit. But the day if Ric Flair dies tomorrow, I think there's going to be a universal feeling that of sadness when Ric Flair dies. And that's a guy that people are kind of fed up with, and they're like, Ric Flair, just retire. Ric Flair, just save your money. Ric Flair, why can't you just stick to one woman? Ric Flair dies tomorrow. I'm convinced that the entire wrestling universe is going to collectively hold hands and reminisce about how awesome Ric Flair was. But if you're asking me about Mount Rushmore, it's hard. Who do you take? Who do you get rid of? Who do you get rid of? You can't get rid of any of those guys. Now, if it's my personal Mount Rushmore with my biases and my anti-WWE sentiment that I have, yeah, I'm getting rid of Hogan and John Cena because I really don't. I'm not too attached to John Cena, and I really don't care about Hulk Hogan. I do love The Rock. I do like Steve Austin. So yeah, put Ric Flair and Bret Hart up there. There's the perfect Mount Rushmore does exist,
Okay,
but
that's
it's
fair.
but it's mine, and people are gonna have issues with it because
All
it
right.
doesn't include those other four guys.
All right. So this is not my biased Mount Rushmore. I'm just speaking of what I think would be proper, and I could be wrong, and everyone can torch me, and I don't care. But uh, Hogan has to be on there.
Yeah.
Austin has to be on there.
Hmm.
Flair has to be on there because of how many companies he did carry
Yeah.
at points and how many belts he's had.
Hmm.
And he was the ultimate bad guy. I don't know how many times.
Oh yeah.
He was the dirtiest player in the game and he cheated his way. And half those belts are either Tully Blanchard's or Arn Anderson's. But whatever, right? That's what a heel does. A heel has interference.
Yeah.
So that's how that rolls. Um, so then it gets down to Cena or The Rock.
Hmm.
And I will pick Cena, even though I'm not necessarily a Cena fan.
Hmm.
But the reason why I picked Cena is Cena carried a generation. Cena carried, if you like him or not, he
Hmm.
carried WWE at one point.
Yeah.
Rock never necessarily carried an era. Austin was bigger than Rock. Triple H was almost on Rock's level, as much as I hate to say that, but he almost was on Rock's level. Rock was a glorified version. I mean, he put the promo work in, don't get me wrong, but he just had to be a glorified version, and people liked him of what Macho Man was and what Seth Rollins is now.
Mm.
That's my thinking. And I understand you don't have to agree with me, and that's where opinions are welcome to have different opinions. But if Rock had his own era and he carried an era like on his own, and I know people can say, well, then Austin had Rock to carry him. Totally different.
Hmm.
Austin and McMahon had one of the best feuds ever, ever. What person would not want to be Steve Austin who gets to kick his boss's ass every week? Are you kidding me? If I got to kick my old boss's ass at the last place I worked at, and I have to do it over and over again on TV, you wouldn't even have to pay me. I would just do it for the sake of doing it. I mean,
I will say this about The Rock. The argument you can make about The Rock was he technically did carry the WWF during the Attitude Era while Steve Austin was out with the neck injuries. He
that's fair.
he
That's fair.
definitely did get that torch and he took full advantage of it. The
It,
Rock actually was one of the a wrestler that actually showed up on SNL during the peak of the Attitude Era, right?
maybe it just wasn't long enough, and because Austin made such,
Because
and then
the
made Austin
argument
made such an
I
imprint.
the argument I would make about that, because I'm glad you're pointing these out, because I thought about it too, but the justification you can make there is The Rock was just got so big so fast and became such a mainstream success, he had to leave. Like there was nothing else for him to prove in wrestling because he'd been there, done that, and Hollywood was calling, not Hollywood Hogan, just Hollywood, California was calling, and he beckoned the call, and the rest is history. The Rock is at one point was a guy who was a highly sought after actor
Right.
who
He
was
was a hot
making a
commodity. Right.
hot and now again there is a lot of controversy with him in Hollywood. There's a lot of controversy with how he greenlights movies and how he has a wrestling spin on the movies that he greenlights, the movies that go through his production, the movies that he scripts. If you ever listen to The Rock in Hollywood, he basically tried to strong up everybody and became the Hulk Hogan of Hollywood. Like, no, brother, that creator doesn't work for me. Like, if I'm in this movie, I can't lose to that guy. I can't. Oh, yeah, the Fast and Furious. He turned that into a wrestling thing. But no, 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 no. I'm not losing to Vin Diesel in any matches. Like, it's a movie, Brock. It's a movie. He's a hero. No, 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 no. Well, I'm a hero too. I'm one of the good guys, right? Am I not one of the good guys? Yeah, but you're kind of a side character. Excuse you. I'm The Rock. Remember that was a whole fiasco. That whole
I remember. I remember.
yeah, and that you could say that that kind of tarnishes The Rock's legacy as a whole. And yet, I believe people are going to be saddened when The Rock goes, like really sad, because he's the most electrifying wrestler in sports entertainment of all time. And the other thing I was going to say, like the Attitude Era was so big, it's almost beautiful to just put two guys, the two biggest rival, the two guys that with the two biggest feuds, Austin and The Rock, up there, because the Attitude Era did so much well, so much good for the WWE, and it basically after it was all said and done, WWE, WWF came out victorious and bigger than ever. And the rest is history. To this day, the WWE is still the number one wrestling promotion in the entire world,
No,
and
no,
and,
you're right.
and it
You're
stems
right.
from that. So yeah, I mean, I thought about this, bro. These are good questions that you're bringing up, and it's a good conversation to be had. But I thought about this, and ultimately, yeah, you can say it was only a short run, but what a run! It was a hell
No,
of a
no,
run.
it was a great run. But the other thing is, he had nowhere else to go but to Hollywood because there was no other wrestling promotion on his level.
Right.
Because with all
So
due respect to TNA, he's not going to
no,
TNA.
he's not going. That's this whole CM Punk argument all over again. He's not going to New Japan because CM Punk's not going to work the New Japan strong style because that's not what CM Punk does, and definitely that's not something The Rock does.
I
So
mean, CM Punk was in TNA for a cup of coffee, but and a real cup of coffee actually. But
because he doesn't
we
drink beer, that's right.
right, but we won't talk about that. But but the point is that like if there was a WCW then that was on that level, maybe The Rock could have went and did that. I
I
mean, but
wouldn't,
we'll never know, right?
we'll
That's
never
why he went
know.
to Hollywood. That's
Yeah,
why he went to Hollywood.
that's when he went to
Um,
Hollywood. Getting more to the ugly stuff of Hulk Hogan. I just want to point out this that Hogan knows
what? Oh,
best.
wait. Sorry.
Go ahead, bud.
So is Hogan on the same level as Gretzky, Jordan,
Oh,
Tom Brady?
I thought about that too.
It was your thought. I'm just reminding you.
I know I've been mulling it over, and I even thought like maybe he's not as big. He is, but a lot of the stuff that he did, it just tarnishes his legacy, and it's hard to justify it. And a lot of those guys, Gretzky, Jordan, Brady, they come with a lot of controversial past too. And Brady himself, borderline cheater. Jordan, addictive gambler, womanizer. Gretzky had a freaking gambling ring while he was the head coach of the Phoenix Coyotes, and then he threw his wife under the bus just to save his ass. I'm convinced that Gretzky was gambling. And had his assistant coach, former player Rick Tocchet, take the fall, and actually they mentioned Gretzky's wife in this, and the more I think about it, the more I realize these are my thoughts. I have no basis of proof. It just reeks of someone asking his wife to take one for the team so he could not get in trouble because then we're talking about Gretzky's tarnished legacy. Like, look how easily it was to tarnish Pete Rose's legacy. To this day, yeah, gambling is legal now, and now a bunch of guys are being caught cheating and benefiting from this gambling, and yet we're never gonna allow Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame. and now he's
Uh,
dead. And
yeah, I mean,
so
if we're gonna talk about cheating though for a minute, and guys who might be generational talent, there's a guy in L.A. that I still think gambled, and someone else took the hit for him. But his name
we
was
talk.
Otani.
Oh
Otani.
Jesus! Yeah, that got swept under the rug really quick. So when it's all said and done with Otani, we're gonna have to question that too. But Hogan is such a fall off, right? Because the other thing that these guys have in common is that they're having, despite all these controversies, they are able to overcome them, and their legacies are still intact. And these are the immortals, right? These are the guys who are just gonna live on forever in through word of mouth and through video highlights. And Hogan could be that guy too, but it just seems like the wrestling fandom and even some of the mainstream wrestling fandom, the casuals, so to speak, cannot overcome Hogan's controversies. They cannot justify it, and it's almost reminiscent to, I mean, since he's the one who was caught on tape saying racist thing, it's almost he's almost being treated like Ty Cobb. Because Ty Cobb's one of the greatest baseball players of all time, but he gets his memory gets kind of his legacy gets supplanted because he didn't hit a lot of home runs. But at one point, he was a Major League Baseball hit leader. Oh, but he was a racist. And then you get the people that say, well, actually, back in the 1900s, Ty Cobb wasn't any more racist than the common white man at that time. Like, okay, you want to go that route? That's fine, I guess. But still, I mean, for a lot of other people, Ty Cobb was a racist, and that tarnishes his legacy. One of the greatest hitters of all time, and no one likes to talk about Ty Cobb. I don't think we're there quite yet with Hulk Hogan, but the commonality is there with the racism, right? Would you
So
agree with me so far?
no, I agree with you with that. So Hulk Hogan is Barry Bonds.
That's my other. That was my other example. The steroid use, the after he was blackballed from WWE because of the racist thing he said on tape with that woman with that pillow talking. And to this day, Barry Bonds, the only way he gets into the Hall of Fame is if he buys a ticket. And the I guess the only the only difference would be that Hogan was welcomed back into WWE, but he got booed off the stage.
But
So
but Hogan's a Hall of Famer
yeah,
without all the crap.
yeah.
And Bonds is a Hall of Famer with he didn't need the steroids. He was going to be a Hall of Famer beforehand.
I would argue that I think Hulk Hogan without the steroids would have been just fine, but in the world of wrestling, especially McMahon's vision of what wrestling should be, yeah, I'm pretty sure that he was more than happy. Well, I'm not more than happy. That's, but he had no issues taking PEDs to make himself
Oh no, of course, no, I'm not saying that.
big.
I'm just right. I'm just saying that like you know Barry Bonds' career, it's kind of similar. Like Hogan could have been fine, I think, without steroids. Bonds proved that he was probably fine without HGH or whatever. I mean, Bonds' head grew what size 8 or something or bigger, like
Yeah.
because that growth hormone. That's insane. You know what I mean?
And
So
and
like,
the and the argument people will make is, well, Hogan wasn't the only one using. Barry Bonds wasn't the only one using. So what's the problem? Okay. Well, I mean,
well,
you
right,
know,
Hogan's not Ken Caminiti. I mean, sorry to drop that name, but like,
jeez, man.
or Brady Anderson, who just had like a 50 home run
Oh,
year, like out of nowhere, and then
yeah.
fell off
Well,
the
yeah,
face of the earth.
I think I know where you're getting at. Yeah, Hogan's not the guy. Hogan is the guy who told little kids to say their prayers, take their vitamins, and train hard. Well, it's easy to do all those things when you are able to inject yourself with the magic juice. Uh,
Right,
and,
right,
and,
exactly.
and
So it was a great cover up to still have that persona.
pretty much, yeah, exactly. It really is a mind, you know why. It's a real, all of this is justified. And even some people justify the Barry Bonds stuff, but the other argument is, well, that's not fair. You can't be using that. That's an enhancement. It's not your natural body. And you're taking advantage of all the other people who refuse to take it for personal or health reasons. Why do you, and remember, who knows how early Barry Bonds was using? If everybody was using in the early 90s, who's to say that Barry Bonds wasn't using in the early 90s as well? Or even my theory is with Barry Bonds, there's a reason why he wanted to go to San Francisco. And it wasn't mostly because his dad used to play for the Giants or that his godfather Willie Mays played for the Giants. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that Bay Area Laboratory Co-op was based in San Francisco. You might know them better as the Balco industry, the
Yep,
Balco
Balco.
company. Yeah. And who's to say that he wasn't getting his designer PEDs as early as 92, 93, as he was getting ready to sign a long-term deal with the San Francisco Giants. That's just my theory. I have no basis of evidence.
No, I mean
I'm just throwing it out there for legalities, you know. I'm just throwing it out there.
it's a great theory. I mean, you can't go against it. And just quickly, I know it's a wrestling podcast, but I think the only two people that probably didn't take steroids that were on a high level in baseball were possibly Derek Jeter and Ken Griffey Jr. I
No,
just don't.
I think Ken Griffey used
You think so?
a lot of Kevin Nash style injuries from that guy. Just his leg would explode running to third base. That just sounds reminiscent to Triple H getting his quad blown up. And that's my theory. I have no way to prove it. I mean, he was always injured, but that's because he played so hard. But in
Right. I
Cincinnati, there was these freak accidents that would happen to the poor guy. And after a while, you can only blame age for so long,
He took a
right?
discount to go home,
Yeah,
and then fell apart. So
he fell apart.
that's why I didn't think he was on, steroids. But maybe you're right and I'm wrong. But I still think Jeter's clean. I just don't see it.
Yeah,
I just him and maybe Nomar Garcia Parra. I don't know if Nomar was ever proven to be, but I think
mm,
Nomar looked pretty clean to me.
yeah.
But
Greg Maddux maybe.
oh, Greg Mack was just a surgeon. I mean, literally named a surgeon. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Maybe.
The ball placement that guy had. My God.
Yeah, or if he was on steroids, it was the stuff that Bret Hart was using, and he was only doing it just to get back on every 5 days. It's the only explanation as to how these guys were able to throw over 100 pitches. But then you can argue that, say, well, more muscle doesn't necessarily mean stronger arms. If anything, it might be more of a detriment to these pitchers. But then
Right, slow
again,
him down.
during that
Right.
steroid era, how many pitchers were being lost to shoulder and arm injuries compared to now that these players are clean now, supposedly? It makes you wonder, like, was there maybe pitchers were using more than they let on to admit to, right? But we'll never know. It was a well-kept secret. The commissioner of baseball wasn't doing anything about it. He was too busy trying to suppress players' salaries and ruin the game in that aspect of it. But don't get me off a tangent, brother. Do not get me off a tangent. Yeah,
Let's get back to Hogan and the
it's a
ugliness.
different type of podcast. But yeah, I mean, where do you want to start here? I mean, what Hogan knows best, I think Hogan's biggest mistake was just aligning himself with a lot of seedy people. Just seedy people. It started with McMahon and then just kept on going. And it's just kind of telling that a lot of his friends are just guys that nobody in wrestling fandom really respects, like guys like the Nasty Boys and Brutus Beefcake Barber, and well, I think people like what's the guy, the Mouth of the South? What's the guy?
Jimmy Hart still around.
Jimmy Hart,
Yep.
and still around with that wig of his, and Vince McMahon, and Eric Bischoff, guys that are very polarizing characters, right? But the seediest guy that he ended up befriending during this era in the mid to late 2000s was this guy, Bubba the Love Sponge Bob
Yeah. Bubba the Love
Squarepants.
Sponge. Yeah.
Bubba's Love Sponge, Lunchbox Sponge Squarepants, whatever his name was. And that guy, as good of a friend as he was, would be the one that would accelerate Hulk Hogan's downfall. As this guy was a sleaze bag, and what you heard on the radio, the Howard Stern wannabe fake tough guy, is exactly the person he was in real life. You know why and apparently he was selling off his wife, not selling off, but he was what do you call it, dishing out his wife like she was a toy to show off to his friends. Hulk Hogan was not the only one, apparently. And from what I
Crazy.
remember of the Last Fan podcast, there was a lot of DVDs in his case. The guy liked to watch, but when Hogan, the Last Fan did mention that when he was done recording Hogan and he recorded Hogan talking to having the pillow talk with his wife. That it's on the record somewhere where he says, "This is what's going to get us into retirement, man. I'll tell you what. This right here, this DVD right here, this is going to take care of our retirement." He threw his own friend under the bus for financial gain. He was going to blackmail him. That was always the
Terrible.
intent.
That's crazy.
And I you almost feel sorry for him, but I mean, I don't
No, I
know.
don't. No, 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 no,
Yeah.
no. I don't feel sorry for Hogan. Because why are you? I, I've said this numerous times. I grew up dirt poor. I
Hmm.
have something now. I mean, I'm not rich, but I have something or whatever. I'm getting by in life. And you couldn't give me enough money to sell my soul to do something like to sleep with like a friend's. I don't care if one of my best friends gets off on it. I'm not sleeping with his wife, man. There's just boundaries you don't break.
Yeah, and that
People,
just speaks to the lack of morals and values that he had, and that's probably because
right,
I mean he was friends with Vince McMahon, who also is a very questionable character, despite the fact that he likes to brag about how conservative and family value he is. WWF is a family-friendly product. Unless you're talking about the Attitude Era, then it's not. Unless you're talking about Shawn Michaels and his gimpy outfits that he would wear, then anyway, don't I digress. It's yeah, you are the company you keep. That's who Hogan was, unfortunately. What you see is what you get.
right.
And
Well, and that's why I have no sympathy for him at that point.
mhm,
Again, I don't wish him any harm.
mhm.
I did say a nice thing about him, but in my personal page, but I also said that he is a racist, and I said that his mistakes would come back to haunt him. And I hope he did repent, and I hope he did find a way to make amends because there's just some things you can't come back from.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so we said that what Chris Benoit did to his family, he can't come back from. I don't know if you can come back from sleeping with your best friend's wife, no matter for what reason. Like, why? wh- Like, why do you do that? I don't know. It's
Yeah,
just
well,
weird.
and I'm pretty. I mean, even Linda Hogan mentioned. I understand he's a celebrity, so I'm pretty sure that he had his fair share of women. I get it, but
But that's the point. Go
y
find something else.
go
Like,
find something else, right? Like
I mean,
you're Hulk Hogan, for God's sake.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's just wrong. I mean,
Which now we're talking about justifying infidelity in his marriage, but
I'm not trying to justify anything. I'm just I mean, it's the same thing as didn't Tony Parker, I don't mean to bring up sports again, but Tony Parker slept with like Brent Barry's wife or something while they're
S-
on the
yeah,
Spurs.
something. Tony
Like,
Parker
wasn't Tony
was
Parker with Eva Longoria? I mean,
he
are
had one of the hottest women on the planet, one of the most famous actresses on the planet, and it still was like, nah, I'm an NBA superstar. I can get mine on the road. I can get mine at home. I can get mine wherever. I don't need to wait on Eva. But that just goes to show the difficulties it is of marriage and relationships, heterosexual relationships, where you're not always on the same spectrum as your partner, right? And that's not a celebrity issue. That is a common issue, especially in this country where you hear that all the time. Like one person in the marriage is willing and making moves to turn on the other one, but the other one isn't. You hear this all the time. The other one just simply doesn't want any part of it for whatever reason, and there's nothing you could do about it. Like they have to find their own happiness in their own inner circle and all that. That's why a lot of these dudes cheat, and that's why anybody cheats, really, if you really think about it.
right,
And especially
I
if you're a
understand that.
celebrity who's on the road all the time, an athlete like Hulk Hogan or Tony Parker, or if you want to stick to wrestling, Bret Hart admits that he cheated on his wife all the time. Bret Hart justifies it by saying, "Well, it was to cure my loneliness, which was more painful than any of the bumps I would take." Or at least it wasn't cocaine like the other wrestlers were doing. Think I'm just letting that simmer there for a
Yeah,
little bit.
I get that. I mean, I'm not saying any of it's right, but I'm saying that like it wouldn't be we wouldn't know if Hogan cheated or not if he wasn't sleeping with his best friend's wife and it
And,
wasn't being videotaped. That's
and
what
yeah,
he put
and
him
that's the kicker.
his ego. His fame
Hmm.
and fortune and ego led him to that bad spot.
And
That's what I'm trying
let's
to say.
and let's take it a step further. That's probably the reason Linda Hogan decided to divorce the guy because a lot of these women, they'll say, okay, I understand that this guy's going to cheat. Linda Hogan said that this guy cheats because he's a celebrity. But the biggest crime that Hogan committed was that he got caught and that it was on tape and it was leaked. And which brings us to our next thing was, remember how I said that guys like The Rock and Hulk Hogan, they just are mouthpieces to the highest bidder. And that's what makes them so hated towards by certain sections of people because
Right,
they're just mouthpieces. Well, the reason that he was able to find success in the Gawker trial was that there was a benefactor in all this that was feeding his dream team prosecution team that ultimately ended Gawker as a website. And it really makes you think twice as to what it means to have First Amendment rights in this country, right? And that's a whole different argument to be had. This is not the this is not the spot to do it in.
right. I
I'm
understand.
just I'm just pointing it out that those are the results of what the Gawker trial was, but this is only possible because a very powerful man decided, who already had a vendetta against Gawker to begin with, decided, yes, this is the mouthpiece I need for my revenge against Gawker. And the reason that Hogan was able to win because there was a billionaire who took a liking to the chances of him winning this case and just poured all the money in the world to make sure that uh, Hogan got the support he needs to end Gawker as a website. And that man is no other than a multi-billionaire whiz kid out in Silicon Valley, from what I remember. This guy named Peter Thiel. And if I remember the story correctly, Peter Thiel was outed by Gawker as being gay. And Peter Thiel, the co-founder of PayPal, Palantir Technologies, outside investor in Facebook, just what do they call it? A venture capitalist and a technical wizard, from what I understand. Um, Conservative guy that he was, he took a liking to the Hogan case and said, "Yeah, this is gonna be. I'm gonna put my money on Hogan. No money, no amount of money is too much. Let's get these guys down." Th- And let's see here. In 2016, Teal confirmed that he had funded Hulk Hogan in the Bollea versus Gawker lawsuit because Gawker had previously outed Teal as gay. The lawsuit eventually bankrupted Gawker and led to founder Nick Denton's bankruptcy. So be careful who you piss off in this world because, you never know. You never know how they're gonna come back at you. But in this situation, he Peter Thiel found the perfect patsy in Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was desperate enough for money. The rest is history. Hogan gets a big settlement. Thiel gets his revenge. Happy ending for everybody.
Wow.
Until you get to the point where because of the lawsuit, the contents of the lawsuit, Linda Hogan divorces Hogan, and a lot of that Gawker money goes back to Linda anyway, including 70% of liquid assets. I think that one guy was right in wrestling purists as well. It was about 20 to 25 million dollars that Hogan had to pay her, and that's just on liquid assets alone. From what I understand, there was all these properties, all these other funds, all these other investments that Hogan had. A lot of it went 40%, as much as 40% went back to Linda Hogan. And for the rest of his time, even though he got all this money, he did all this, all that, he's still suing doctors. He's still broke as a joke. And there's not enough money. He's still waiting for that big payday. He's still, waiting for that WWE call from New York. And he did get that call, but then immediately after, they redacted the contract, the Legends contract they gave Hogan, and erased them from memory and became persona non grata because of the contents of that tape. Not the family friendly, uh, they're not family friendly enough in the PG era. No way. We can't have Hogan around. And as you can see, it's one domino after the other with this guy. And that's why I kind of agree with the last fan when they assessed that. dude, if this guy can't even get a happy ending, this is the greatest wrestler of all time. He can't even ride off into the sunset and get away from the sport. Everybody else in this industry is screwed.
Yeah, no, I agree. Someone brought up to me, and I don't want to out them, so I'm just gonna kind of leave it as is. Leave, but I couldn't remember and I can't find it. Did Linda cheat on Hulk with like one of Nick's best friends or something? What was some?
Sounds right. I remember hearing that. I think that I
I
sent you a link as well. I think
Yeah,
I
I
was
looked
quickly,
through it.
I
I looked
skimmed
through it,
through it
but I
really
couldn't.
quick. Yeah.
Same, but I can't find concrete. Like
I
I just can't.
bel I believe in that link I sent you. There was mention of that, but I was skimming through it so quickly because I just didn't. It's a pretty lengthy, um, a very lengthy timeline as to the goings on during a relationship. But I'm pretty there's fault on both ends, but I'm pretty sure there's fault in both ends. But Hogan was the one who got caught, and Hogan was the one who paid the ultimate price. Um, and then Hogan would end up marrying a woman that looked just like a combination of Linda and Brooke Hogan, which was really creepy. But Hogan has a type. He's a beach blonde bombshell from the beach, and his women have to look just like him as well. So that would explain why a lot of the women he goes out with and ends up marrying look like his exes and even his daughter to a smaller extent. But either way, um, yeah, I bet
Figure.
both. Are we both looking it up now? Are we both looking up this link?
Yeah, I'm trying to see. I just because it. Not that it matters. I'm not saying, I don't know. I just wanted the facts out there, that's all. But I'm not really finding that anything really happened.
It
I mean,
it sounds familiar. I believe I read the same thing that she did go after one of Nick's friends.
okay,
Um
in 2008, Linda Hogan caused headlines by beginning a relationship with 19-year-old Charlie Hill. 4 years later, in 2012, Hill proposed to Linda on an episode of Celebrity Therapy. But I don't know if that's the guy that's Nick's friend, and I don't.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, regardless, I mean the whole the Hogan Knows Best cast and facade that we saw on that show quickly crumbles. Um and the happy marriage that you saw ended up being a sham. Hogan's just cheating on Linda. Linda's looking at younger men to kind of prove something to herself. Nick, probably the biggest scumbag of them all, gets drunk, gets in a supercar, because he was trying to be a racer. Talk about Fast and Furious.
That's right.
Nick was trying to become a racer, and he thought he was invincible. Sorry, and gets into a car crash, which ends up paralyzing his best friend. Where now this friend of his needs special attention for the rest of his life. His mother has to be his main caregiver, and at, because and the Hogans basically made this friend just a persona non grata. Like, just well, we don't associate with that guy. We don't associate with him. Like, no, no, we don't know. He's nobody to us now. Like, bro, your family put him in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. How can you say that? I mean, that's the guy that your kid grew up in. Yeah, we don't know him. No, he's not. He's nothing to us. And that just shows more of the character or lack thereof, and more of the seediness that Hulk Hogan was as a person, as a human being, and the values that he teaches his kids. Because let's face it, when you live with Hulk Hogan and he's not doing the fatherly things that a father should do, and action speaks louder than words. He taught them, these kids of his, that being popular and a celebrity was the most important thing on the freaking planet. And anything that gets in your way needs to be demolished quickly, because nothing should stop you from getting to the from you to get that torch, brother. And I
That's
cite
crazy.
and think about it. I'm not just saying this to say it, but think about it. I cite Brooke Hogan's need to have a singing career. She got her own show, Brooke Knows Best. And she also, brother, she also ended up being a key character during the total nonstop Hogan years at TNA.
That's right. Aces and Ace. We didn't, and she ended up being in a relationship with Bully.
Bully Ray's sham wife
Yep.
before
That's
she
right.
got quickly disappeared. And it was all just to promote her singing career and because that's what she wanted to do. There was nothing
Wow.
else for her. It was all about being a celebrity, being a somebody. That's not just Brooke Hogan, Hulk Hogan's daughter. Brooke Hogan, the singer, the model, the entertainer. That's nothing else mattered. And
See,
it's just telling because I mean I'm sorry to cut you off there, but I was just telling because the relationship between Brooke, Linda, and Hulk would just disintegrate as time went on. What were we gonna say? I'm sorry.
it's funny how that happens, and then in the end, Brooke is not invited to the tribute.
Mm,
She put on Instagram she was not invited.
she was not invited, right?
And in 2023, she reportedly made the decision after years of disagreements and concerns about his financial management, confirmed that she made the decision to protect her father from those she felt were taking advantage of him.
Mm,
So Brooke's decision she made was to not be a part of her father's will.
wow. Ooh, she'll probably regret that one.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I
The
mean,
idiot's son takes most of that money then that do we want Nick Hogan with all that Hulk Hogan wealth?
Brooks'
Just
decision was reportedly influenced by a combination of factors, including disagreements with her father about his relationships and financial matters and the impact of racist sex tape scandal on her own life. She felt the need to step away to protect her emotional well-being. While Brooke and Hulk Hogan reconciled before his death, their relationship has been strained for several years. Brooke expressed that she felt a disconnect from her father and needed to step away to protect her heart despite loving him deeply. Like, wow. So, you're right. He doesn't ride off into the sunset. He tarnishes his legacy
and his family.
and his
Like
family. Yeah. Even more important, forget his legacy. So, that's fame and fortune or ego or bad choices or all of the above.
and it's a different life, I get it, but man,
I don't know.
if fame and fortune comes at the price of ruining your family, then what the hell is it worth? It's worthless in the end. Like this guy, all American, the American dream, two kids, a wife, and probably a dog, and multi-car garages, big mansion. Uh, it wasn't enough. It
And I
wasn't
think
enough.
that's and I think that's the problem is that he was the American hero for most in wrestling. We went from being the American hero, the guy everyone idolized. How many people would not be wrestlers or not be whatever if it wasn't for him? The Edges of the world, the Matt Cardonas of the world
Yeah.
have come out and said that they wouldn't be a wrestler if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan. They're
Yep.
not condoning anything he did. They just said that, they wouldn't be a wrestler if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan.
Yep. I
To
agree with
then
that. Yeah.
to then fall to the level of you pass away, a good portion of the IWC is not only doesn't acknowledge your death or celebrate it, they're like condoning anyone who does.
Hmm.
And then you have
Yeah.
these type of fallouts of how ugly things got.
It's yeah.
And
It's
you're supposed to be larger than life. So it's funny. WWE made a DVD on Ultimate Warrior called The Deconstructive or the Deconstruction of the Ultimate Warrior. And Hogan's on there bad mouthing him and how when Warrior came to WCW, he was only supposed to say like 5 words or 10 words. And then he said this whole script about how much he beat up Hogan in WWE and everything else. And so Hogan's like, why did you do that? Like, you just ruined the whole heat of our angle. And they're just bashing Warrior constantly in this DVD, right? Bashing the hell out of him. But now look what it looks like. Warrior had more sense of anything than you did, Hogan. And that's saying something because Warrior was a nut job of his own, as much as I loved him.
and
So,
his daughter actually defends him even in death too. Like she's not ashamed of doing that, which is I have a bad feeling Brooke Hogan's not gonna be doing that for
no,
the
not at
for the
all.
rest of her life. And then I want to finish with Nick, who's probably the biggest scumbag in all of this. So he puts his friend, and I'm calling him a scumbag just based on this event, right? You paralyze one of your closest friends, man. But the reason I'm really bothered by Nick more than anybody in this thing is because he had no talent. He couldn't. He wanted to do anything but work. He wanted to just live off of the Hogan name and take advantage of it. He was a nepo baby bitch that he was. But the thing that I cannot forgive him is you put one of your
Still
best friends
is.
in a wheelchair and still is. Sorry. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I haven't really kept up with Nick Hogan's life, but from the little that I know of him after that event, he still seems like a self-centered prick that he is. Gets it from his dad, probably. But no, the thing that really showed as to who this guy was as a character, Hogan is on a phone call, recorded line, by the way. I think it was a phone call. And Hogan's instructing him, "Oh, their brother, listen to the lawyers, little dude, and we'll be fine. We're trying to work with the attorney, and we're gonna beat this rap. We're gonna beat this case. All right, dude. You just gotta just hang in there. We'll get you out, and you'll be fine, brother. This is only your first offense, so you're or something to that effect. I don't know. I'm just ad-libbing at this point. And this is what the last fan said while Nick is there listening to his dad, trying to spew words of encouragement to the kid. Nick replies, "Cool, yeah, whatever, cool. Hey, but when I get out, that we're still on for that TV deal, right?
Wow.
We're still gonna be on that TV show that you promised, right? You're gonna get me on TV, right? Right? Right?
Ugh.
Nick Hogan. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Like, well, I gotta make sure I'm over, dude. Well, little dude, why would you say that? Where'd you get that from? I get it from you, Dad. I always gotta keep my heat, dude. I always gotta carry the torch, brother.
Wow.
I can't let anybody get over me, brother Jack."
I think I'm very I'm very grateful to be raised poor, so I never became self-entitled that way.
Listen, man, you can be rich, you can be poor, but if you just have bad morals and values, I mean, even the poorest people have seedy morals and values, and you can argue with, well, that's not a necessity. Well, that's just environment. It is what it is, right? But you can also teach your kids and your family good morals and values. I mean,
Moral fiber.
moral fiber. I mean, we watch some of our favorite movies are mob movies, and it's because the directors do a good job of, for better or for worse, to show that yeah, they're mobsters, they're evil, they're crime doers, they're criminals, they're corrupt men, but at the end of the day, their family comes first. What did Al Pacino's character used to tell Fredo? Don't ever go against the family never again. Because it's all about family. What freaking what's his face? The Fast and the Furious. We mentioned them a couple of times already. What's the whole theme? What's the big meme that is always? But it's kind of wholesome at the same time. It's all about family. Babbity boobity. It's all about family. That's what Dom Toretto says all the time. It's all about family.
100%.
100%. I mean, if you don't have, I mean, my parents used to ingrain that in me. Like friends come and go, but your family's forever, for better or for worse. Because we know that there's some seedy characters and families all over the world where like sometimes your family takes advantage of that, and they don't always hold your best interests with you. But it comes down to anything. As long as you set boundaries, you set out barriers. You should always have a good relationship with your family. And if your family rejects your barriers and your barricades and they don't respect the line that you told them not to cross, then they're not your family to begin with. They're just family in blood and in name, and that's it, right? So it just comes down to that. But rich, poor, celebrity, non-celebrity, you're from Florida, California, right wing, left wing. Morals are morals, man. Right is right and wrong is wrong.
I get that. I didn't
And,
mean to
uh,
portray that just because I was poor.
no,
But
and
it did
I'm
help that I had to earn where I got, where I didn't,
yeah,
nothing was handed to me, where it seems like, Hogan didn't teach his kid enough, to earn his own keep. And then Nick just decided to have the same, to have that mindset. Well, okay, well, dad's got an unlimited, whatever for me.
yeah.
I mean, again, I'm assuming, but that's what it looks like.
I mean, that's what it looks
right?
like to me. I mean, just based on
Right.
what, and this is just I'm spewing whatever the last fan gave out. That's where I get most of my information from. I mean, you can't get better than the last fan when they go full deep in to the historical context of pro wrestling. I mean, they really go deep, and that was one of the things that stood out to me was Nick Hogan was so ingrained about his celebrity status and his what he's gonna do after he gets out of jail in terms of his economic standing. Like, bro, you just put your friend in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. Is there any remorse there? I don't know because it seemed like it was not important. I mean, Hogan was pretty pissed that that he had to pay a lot to that settlement with his friend. I forgot the dude's name, but I believe he was also a serviceman. He was in the military.
Right.
And it wasn't I gotta double check that, man. And I'm sorry, guys. A lot of it I'm just trying to do off of memory here. And anytime I'm kind of hazy with my memory, I will call it out. But I believe he was military, and it wasn't the hail of bullets or the landmines that got him. It was his dumbass friend who thought he was Fast and Furious.
Pretty sad.
It's pathetic. And this poor mom has to see her son be a dependent for the rest of his life, a strong-willed son. And that's why I really dislike Nick Hogan out of um I'm typing it up as I go, friend accident. Okay. Because I want to make sure like
Oh no,
more of
you're right.
this.
You're right. I just looked it up.
John
In, Au-
Graziano.
in August 2007, yeah, it was John Graziano, a decorated Iraq war veteran who
Unbelievable.
suffered severe brain damage and requires 24-hour care.
Mm. Mm-mm. Nick Hogan was 17 years old. The Graziano family also sued the Boleas and a settlement was reached. Um,
They have to at that point.
yeah,
I don't think anybody wants to sue anybody at that, you know what I mean? But they have to. Now the guy has to be taken care of the rest of his life
yeah,
because
yeah,
Nick made it, a dumb move. I mean,
yeah,
what's supposed to happen? I mean, you always hear the term "people are sue happy." That's not a situation that's sue happy. That is life or death. Like, how is that guy going to
yeah,
be taken care of the rest of his life? I
yeah,
mean, crazy.
exactly. And yeah, man, it's and this is why it's not just about well, he's on the Mount Rushmore and he's the greatest wrestler of all time. And if you don't think that, then you're a jackass. I mean, this is it. This is the Hogan story right here in a nutshell. There was the rise, the fall, and the death of Hogan. Not Hogan the real person, but Hogan the character, where he went from being all-American superhero to this, like and that like someone that we're not sure what to make of. It's a slam dunk. It's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And we're sitting here like upset about the later years of his life where it was full of this nonsense because Hogan didn't know best. He let life go off the rails. And
Yeah, there's a difference. There's a difference of making bad mistakes because of lack of knowledge per se or unfortunate luck. And there's like, you know, you chasing clout or just being just I'm trying irresponsible.
yeah.
Hogan becoming what he was, there was a responsibility to keeping to that standard. I don't care if you're playing a
Mm,
character, you decided to become that character. You
yeah.
took the opportunity. You
But
know, so,
ultimately it was just a facade here, man, because Hogan doesn't get to that point without the steroids, which were illegal, immoral, at the very least immoral, right? He does the steroids, right? He's doing all the things that a guy that he's trying to portray would be against. If Hulk Hogan, the character, saw Hulk Hogan, the person, he beat his ass. Like, brother, that's not the way you do things, dude. There's a moral compass that you're lacking, brother, and I'm not gonna stand for it. No, I mean, no, Hogan. Put it this way: if you really want to get super duper poetic here, I know I'd use that word a lot. Hogan, the guy with the lowered moral compass fed the persona, the good guy Hogan that you would see on TV. The reason that Hogan's persona was so good because it was because Hogan, the real person, was so damn bad. How about them apples?
Wow. Yeah, now you know what? I never thought of that.
Is that a
Um,
good place to stop? Huh?
yeah, that's
Huh?
probably where we stop. But
We did
with that
cover
being
everything, by the way.
but with that being said, though, I mean that makes so much sense that he's trying to correct his own errors
Mm.
by living in another personality.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because our friend EJ used to say the same thing about no, something similar about Ric Flair. But you know, I think the reason we all appreciate Ric Flair, even with his own undoings, is that at least it's out in the forefront
And he owns it pretty
and
much.
pretty much owns it. I mean,
Tries to.
try pretty. Yeah, but you know, when you do the same mistakes over and over again, I mean, it gets to a point where you're not owning up to anything except your immediate remorse for that moment, and then you go and do the same mistakes over and over again. I
Oh
mean,
no, no, right, right, right. No,
yeah.
I'm not saying it's justifiable. I'm just saying that he does admit to his mistake, but then he just keeps making the same stupid mistakes. That's the
Yeah.
problem, you know.
And that goes back to what I was saying. Like, yeah, at least he's upfront about it, right? And it kind of humanizes him too and makes him relatable. But with Hulk Hogan, he tries so damn hard to be this super heroic guy. And then you see what he does as a person and how he's teaching his kids to be. And it's the complete opposite of what that persona, in-ring persona, was all about. And I think that's the thing that really pisses off a lot of wrestling fans, at least the ones that have a brain and actually use it. Because we know plenty of WWE fans who are like, "Oh, Hulk Hogan was the best. I'd suck his dick if he were here today." You know they're out there. The ones who get on their knees and get on and start gargling the Hulkster's, you know what's, and he can't do wrong. Everybody who says anything bad about him is just a hater who never did anything. But I mean, I'm sorry, but if you really want to tell the story of Hulk Hogan, this is the story you tell about Hulk Hogan. The good, like we've been talking about this whole night, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because
Absolutely.
uh, you know what? If we ever, when we ever get back together again and have this talk about The Rock, Steve Austin, Brock Lesnar, Vince McMahon. That one's coming. Vince McMahon. Although there's really nothing good to say about Vince McMahon. Maybe we won't be doing that, but um, but yeah,
Bret Hart. I mean,
I
you know,
mean,
what other?
Bret Hart in the book he admits to all of this. So what is there? What is else there? What else is there to expose? He's not
Right,
hiding.
right. He's not hiding anything. You're right.
No, and he's supposed to be Canadian, Captain Canada, right? You know, he's a heel in the U.S. and a superhero in Canada. And the day Bret Hart dies is going to be a sad day. I mean,
I
it's
agree.
sad now, dude. It's sad now that he can't wrestle, especially in this era of wrestling. I know that he's a complete mark for the WWE, but can you imagine him wrestling right now? And one year he'll be in AEW, the next year he'll be in New Japan, and then the following year he'll be back in WWE, and then he'll just go to the highest bidder for the rest of his life. Can you imagine the matches that he would be having? We're seeing Chris Jericho at this age still wrestling. Who's the other guy?
Yeah,
The Hardy Boys are still, Edge is still wrestling. Can you imagine Bret Hart versus AJ Styles? Bret Hart versus Okada. And that shit got taken away from us because some dumbass didn't know how to be a good wrestler, Goldberg. Yeah, I'm Team Bret to the day I die because this is the guy who gives a shit about the industry. And Goldberg, I mean, you saw what Goldberg did. He was crying that he didn't get the proper send off. If you want the proper send off, go to AEW. They have proven that they give old wrestlers a proper send off. Otherwise, shut the hell up. Get your
yeah.
money and get the F out of the way. Anyway,
I mean, I think that whole thing got screwed up when Seth got injured, but I mean, now supposedly we don't even know if Seth's injury is real, but
yeah, I
because
think it's fake.
Seth was supposed to cash in on Goldberg if Goldberg beat Gunther, but
Mm.
you know, who knows for sure? You never know. But I do agree with you, and I do think that. when the next wrestler, passes, I mean, put it this way. I mean, when Jay Briscoe died 2 years ago,
Hmm.
I think it's almost 2 years, or it's getting close, or I can't remember 100%,
Hmm.
but or when Bray Wyatt died.
Yeah, that was sad.
Bray Wyatt's dying, death so early, sad. Jay Briscoe's death, dying early, sad. I will admit, I never thought I'd be talking about the day Hulk Hogan died.
Yeah,
I
you
just did.
just
I
I
just because he's immortal. He's the
he's
immortal Hulk
immortal Hulk
Hogan.
Hogan. Yeah,
Even though he did all his flaws, he's still the immortal Hulk Hogan. He's the one guy I thought would never have a conversation about talking about his death. So, in that aspect, it kind of is weird. And it's still weird that he's gone. Not
yeah.
that I talked to him or saw him. It's just weird that he's not on this planet. It's just
Yeah,
weird.
it's very. I agree with you 100% because that's the same way I feel. I mean, we should have seen Ric Flair die at least 5 times, and he's still living,
Right,
and he doesn't take
right.
care of his body at all. And well, we can assume with Hulk Hogan, he looked like he was in shape. Yes, he had all these injuries, he had all these surgeries, multiple knee replacements, knee surgeries, hip surgeries, neck surgeries, all these types of surgeries, right?
Yeah.
But you see him and he looks, he's still cut off T, showing off the pythons. Looks like he's in great shape. Has a chiseled face, cheekbones and all that. Still wears the bandana. Oh, is that why you're wearing the bandana today? I just realized that.
No, no, I wear a
It's
bandana.
coincidence.
No, I wear a bandana. Like literally, like I have photos of me at 16 playing basketball wearing a bandana. I stopped doing it for a while. I did it on a couple different podcasts with Corey last year, and then I did it once with you before,
Yeah.
and then I don't know, like I stopped wearing it, and all of a sudden I'm like,
That is so
it's
nine
hot. But you know what
that's
it
so
is? It's
90s of you is what it
it
is.
is it's 90s of me, one. Two, a little bit of ghetto coming back out of me
Mm.
again. Maybe having a midlife crisis. But also, it's so hot out, I don't want to ruin my hats.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I ruined my hats because of that. But anyway,
Yeah.
um,
So the bandana's on.
but yeah, yeah, and Ric Flair looks like a hot mess, and he still keeps doing the same things, like lands him in the hospital, and he keeps cheating death. But yeah, you Hulk Hogan, you just assume he's gonna live forever, and then he dies of cardiac arrest, which only concludes one thing: that PED use finally caught up to him.
Yeah. It's awful.
And I think that's a good place to stop. Would you agree, or you have something else to
Nope, that's it. That's it. I mean,
I
rest in
mean,
peace to Hulk. I'm grateful for everything he's, that he did do for wrestling. I mean, I know there's a lot of things he didn't do, but I'm grateful for the good things he did do. And I hope that I wish his family no harm. And I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
I don't wish anyone any evil. I don't wish anyone to die. Um, but I also respect if no one wants to acknowledge his death, that's okay too. It's okay for
yeah.
everyone. There's no right or wrong answer here.
Yeah,
Like,
everybody's grieving differently, and I guess you could
right,
say this is my way of grieving. And if we're gonna talk about bigger than life characters. Part of my therapy, my grieving process is to humanize them a little bit, and what is being human is to be full of flaws and errors, and where nobody's perfect. But it's kind of poetic. Again, that word, poetic. It's kind of poetic that the guy who tried his best to be like the perfect American, the perfect, more, conduit of morality, ends up being kind of a shady character himself, and his legacy is a little bit tarnished because of it. And I know I'm glad I wasn't the only one who thought this because I saw it like, whoa, there's a lot of hesitancy about this guy. This is the greatest wrestler of all time, and people are kind of like they don't want to go all out and it goes back to how we started this episode tonight, Harry, when Ozzy Osbourne died. Oh, there was a lot of outpour. The funeral procession was today, it seemed like.
that's right.
There was a ton of people at the funeral procession, and they were singing his songs. They were chanting his name. They were cheering on the family. The Sharon, Jack, and not the was it Kelly Osbourne? Is that her name?
Yes, Kelly. Yep.
And it's a huge difference between that world and then the Hogan world, where it's just murky at best, and it really just speaks volumes to the difference in what the public perception of these two, let's face it, larger than life characters in their own industry. And Ozzy Osbourne gets the proper send off, and Hulk Hogan doesn't.
I'm gonna kind of change up a quote from Tropic Thunder. It's funny. I was just talking to my brother about it earlier. It's funny it came up, and he says one of the greatest quotes ever. But I'm gonna change the wording for it for Hulk. All right. I know who I am. I'm the brother playing the brother disguised
Brother,
as another brother.
dude,
So
Jack.
that's what. But that's what he was. That's what Hogan was. He was
Yeah.
one version of the brother. It all goes back to three. He was one version of the brother that was playing the brother disguised as the other brother. And we all just laid that out today. We didn't even mean to do that. It just kind of happened.
Yeah, and I could sit here all day talking about why Hulk Hogan failed miserably at doing that and why Bret Hart, despite the fact that he gets so much flack for, acting like all of this is real, you cannot deny how authentic Bret Hart is about all this whole thing. He's a guy who loves wrestling.
Oh,
Hulk
absolutely.
Hulk Hogan was a guy who used wrestling to get to where he needed to get. And you could tell that he really didn't appreciate it. Like it was just a vehicle, a platform for him to jump off and get into other stuff. At the end, it was the same wrestling community that rejected him because deep down inside, you could say that he rejected wrestling too. So these are the results. Whereas there was other celebrities that died, and everybody was really sad about it. I just can't. Oh well, Theo Huxtable died. Malcolm Jamal Warner.
Right.
Everybody was sad about that one. And then you see, I didn't realize that he made an impact on so many of celebrities in the 90s. I mean, he made an impact on Steve Urkel's life, Jaleel White. He made an impact on his life. Adam Sandler spoke very highly of him
Yes, he
because he
did.
was on the Cosby Show. And that's the thing. He was on the Cosby Show, one of the biggest controversial figures in celebritydom. And Malcolm Jamal Warner is guilty by association. Remember, Hogan gets flack for being around seedy people. Well, for Malcolm Jamal Warner, they forgave him. Like they didn't hold that against him, is what I'm trying to say. And I think people were universally sad about Theo Huxtable, or sorry, Malcolm Jamal Warner, uh, passing at such a young age. Well, he was in his mid 50s, about
Right. Mid 50s.
mid 50s.
Drowned. He
Oh,
accidentally drowned on vacation. I
yeah,
mean,
and I think he saved his daughter, kind of like that one dude from the WWE ex-WWE wrestler. Was it Gaspard something?
yeah. Wasn't it Shad Gaspard?
I
Right.
think you know more than I do, but name
Yeah.
sounds familiar. I think
Yeah.
he died the same way,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
He did die the same way.
So
It's
sad. It's really tragic.
it is sad. Make sure. Yeah, it is Shad Gaspard. Yep, did the same thing.
And
He
also, go ahead.
passed away trying to did save his son.
Jesus Christ, yeah.
I mean that's those are the real American heroes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, oh my God.
I understand Hogan's playing the character he's been given and he owned up to it, but it's these people. You know what I mean? Like, it's these people that are the real true heroes, and they sacrifice their own life. So,
And then the last one that I wanted, Ryan Sandberg died, and you would
oh
think,
my
oh,
God.
we have the celebrity athlete fatigue here, and I have yet to see a bad thing being said about Ryan Sandberg. Ryan Sandberg, who
Now,
go ahead.
I'm not a Cubs fan, but I know who Ryan Sandberg is. That's my era of baseball. That's my probably my favorite era of baseball. So I know
Yeah,
Ryan Sandberg. Um, he had grit, man.
yeah,
He
Grit.
would that grit. I mean, he was a phenomenal player. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, phenomenal. Like,
Yeah.
but he had this grit about him that you want every player to have.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
uh, in football, Ryan Fitzpatrick had that same grit.
Hmm.
Obviously Sandberg was a better player
Yeah.
in baseball compared to Ryan Fitzpatrick, but it's those type of guys that if they, even if they're not as talented, they hang around because of that grit. And maybe Sandberg ended up being better than what he was because of the grit he carried. But that's
Yeah.
just my that's the one word I think of. I think of Ryan Sandberg.
I mean, the guy could hit for power, hit for average, great
Absolutely.
defensive second baseman, just one of the greatest of all time. Countless Gold Glove awards, stole lots of bases, and um, won an MVP in 1984, despite the fact that he only hit 19 home runs, but he was undoubtedly the best player on that 1984 Cubs team that went to the playoffs. He was arguably the best player on the 89 team, Cubs team that went to the playoffs. Um,
He's
uh,
uh he's a five-tool player.
and a lot of people say, universally speaking, we talked about who wasn't using. A lot of folks say Ryan Sandberg did it the right way, and he did not use PEDs, and that's why he is immortalized. That's why no one had a bad thing to say. That's why everybody was collectively sad about Ryan Sandberg. Um, Hell, brother, you had last year at his statue's unveiling the current Cubs team who had nothing to do with Ryan Sandberg. Like, there's no connection there, I don't think. No direct connection. Sure, he'll show up to spring training, right? He'll show up to spring training and chalk it up with a newer generation of Cubs players. It's one of those things. Once you're a Cub forever, right?
Same thing with a
The
Yankee. I get it.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's another story franchise for sure. Well, I mean, Cubs and Yankees not the same kind of stories, but either way, they've
No,
been in
the no
forever now.
the
Yeah,
right. The legacy of being that particular, being a part of that,
franchises.
correct franchise. Yes.
Well, Craig Counsell, the manager, had the entire team, all 25, 26, 27 players on the roster be a part of that unveilment. They're getting ready for a game. And Counsell's like, no, 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 no. Ryan Sandberg, we're about to see the statue. It's a once in a lifetime thing, you guys. He's one of the greatest Cubs players of all time. Let's go check it out. And they all checked it out. And you had Cubs players on the team, former Cubs players like Kyle Schwarber, just talk glowingly about him. And it wasn't just the standard, pish posh, say this, you know, predetermined quote for the papers. It was pretty damn genuine. You had the guy who created the statue crying that he's um, reminiscing about how they the day that he finished that they were about to unveil the statue or something to that effect. It was around the timeline where they found out that he had cancer and they were legitimately sad. And then once he passed away, the guy who made the statue was legitimately sad. I mean, he was crying. That's impact. Guy who led by example did not have to. The Bret Hart of second baseman among Cubs players. You know why? Because he made it real. He made you feel it right here in your heart, right here. And that is the difference. This stuff transcends all sports, including the sport of wrestling. Yes, I'm calling it a sport of wrestling. This stuff transcends. And if it doesn't transcend, if you're kind of murky and you're questioning Barry Bonds's and the Hulk Hogan's of the world, then it's because whatever they did not transcend as much as they think it did. And
It
that's
was
that's my stance on it. So
right. It was just the flash in the pan type
this
thing of
a
that.
facade. Yeah,
Yeah, at
yeah,
that time. Yeah,
yeah.
facade.
Anyway, we gotta go. I could be here forever talking to you about the
Yeah,
the,
no,
the
we
ins
gotta
and
go.
outs and
We gotta go.
whatever.
But it was always good to do another podcast with you. I know it's been a long time. Hopefully, we'll have some more up soon. I'm sure we'll have another debate of some sort to talk about.
Hey, fantasy
Uh,
football's coming up soon. I could use some fantasy football content if you're up for it.
yeah, we'll definitely do that.
And you're in
I'm
the
thinking,
same. Go ahead.
no, I'm thinking that there'll be another wrestling, opportunity soon enough. Who knows what? Hopefully, no one dies, but
No.
there'll be another. But there'll be another wrestling opportunity soon enough. But you're right. We're in the same fantasy football league, and you're
Yeah.
actually making it more interesting. You're moving it to fan tracks. You're doing some.
Oh man, I'm a little nervous about switching to fan tracks,
You
but
gotta, you gotta reach out to Joe Pollock. Shout out to
uh,
Joe Pollock.
I
He's
might
got.
have to. I might have to
He's
get him on a call.
yeah. I'll set that up. He's the wizard um, behind running, help me run my leagues and stuff because he's in front of the computer. I'm never in front of a computer. Like, what I had to do to make this happen tonight, which I'm glad I did, but I'm just not. I'm always on the road or I'm
Yeah,
just never in front of a computer. So,
yeah,
Joe's had a lot of time to work with fan tracks. We're now 2 years into it, I believe.
yeah.
So, he knows almost the ins and outs. So we're doing really well with it. So
Yeah, I might have to reach out to them for sure. Thank you for
yeah,
letting me know about that.
yeah.
'Cause right now I'm struggling with the waiver wire setup. I want to make sure I had it right. Make sure that I'm trying to make it as fair as possible. I don't want people accusing me of things.
Yeah, of course.
Because once the league is set up, I'm just a player like everybody else. The system is in place for me to be hands off and just focus on my team. I don't want to be the call on this trade. You need to make a call on who gets waiver wire first. You need to make a call. You got to set my lineup for me because I forgot to do it yesterday. Like, no, 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 no. The system is in place where everybody gets the same opportunity to set their own damn lineup. I'm not your babysitter.
No, no,
Yeah.
right. Right. The only thing.
And you know how I am.
Yeah, 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 yeah. The only thing you'd have to do is just monitor if there's a glitch in the system or something, because it does happen. But
Yeah,
besides that, it's pretty much plug and play. Once you set it up,
exactly.
it does run itself. Even you could take payments that way too. I mean, you could still cover if you wanted to. Say someone wants to pay you cash, then you could just pay it, if you want, and they can take the cash. But for instance, if I'm going to play in your league, I literally pay Fantrax,
Mm,
and then Fantrax will then you can have it distributed however at the end. They'll Fantrax will keep it, and then you're the treasurer at the end, and then you will disperse it how it's supposed to disperse when the season's over. So,
yeah.
but we'll get into that another day, another time. I'll help you with the football stuff.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Thanks for being on. We thank you all for listening. Please, follow the Wrestling Purist YouTube channel. Follow us on Spotify as well. I'm not sure if we're on Apple iTunes. I'm still working out the kinks on that. And please come check us out on Wrestling Purist on Facebook, where Felipe at least once or twice a day does a everything is wrestling post somewhere, or his sarcasm will poke its head out once in a while, and I'll share content and usually get trolled by someone, but it's all good and fun, and we love talking wrestling. So,
That's what it's all about, man. Talking wrestling and yeah.
but on that note, I'll let you have the last word.
Oh, Jesus. I feel like I've had too many worse. I'm exhausted, man. This is therapeutic for me, man. Because like I said, I struggle with it today, this whole time with Hogan dying. And I think I'm pretty happy with being able to share my feelings about this whole ordeal. Yeah, I'm not dancing on anybody's grave, but I'm a firm believer of history. I'm a history person, you can't just sugarcoat it. You gotta give it all. And if I offended anybody, I apologize, but I'm not apologizing for the approach. If this was too mature for you, that's on you, I guess, more than anything.
And you're listening to the wrong podcast.
And you're listening to the wrong podcast for sure. I don't have any heroes, bro. I mean, I did talk very glowingly about Bret Hart, but I also brought up his womanizing ways, and there was that incident with his ex-wife. I'm not gonna get too much into it. And then the whole thing with Martha Hart, he has flaws. Everybody has flaws. And, if everybody has flaws, then we gotta be able to judge these guys in some other way
Accountability. We all
about
need to be held
accountability.
accountable. We all
All
need
I
to be
know,
held accountable.
all I know is that Bret Hart wrote a very scathing book about himself, which is, you would think Meltzer wrote the damn thing. No, Hart was the one who wrote it. And you look at Hogan's book and it's full of lies and miscalculations and timeline inconsistencies and imaginative revisionist history.
You're
That's a
describing a narcissist.
Yeah, well, not like Sluger, but no. But
Oof.
anyway, oof,
Brooch.
brother, yeah. But yeah, like I said, it's not meant to piss on anybody's grave or anything like that. I don't want. I thought he was gonna live forever, and I do feel bad for the family. But you're a public figure. If you, this is part of the fame and fortune that you're seeking, right? You got to take the good with the bad. If anything, the bad makes you appreciate the good. At least you don't have to work our dead end jobs the next day. And I don't think I have a dead end job, but I've had dead end jobs where I felt like I was going nowhere. I was just clocking in and out. And at least Hulk Hogan he had he lived his dream. He fulfilled what he wanted to do, if that is what he wanted to do. I know he was mostly a bodybuilder, and then they realized, hey, why don't you get into wrestling? Um, and the rest is history. I mean, the guy was a bigger than life persona and um, took wrestling to new heights. And that alone is enough to be happy with one's legacy. But if I'm gonna be me about it, then you got to deal with everything else that comes with the territory. And I think we did a good job of. I'm surprised that we got to all the bullets that we wanted to cover, and I know it's lengthy, but I'm really glad with how this turned out, and it ended up being therapeutic for me. And now I have a better sense as to why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling about Hulk Hogan, and it's because I got to talk to you about it, and yeah, I'm in a better place than I was this earlier this evening with you. So thank you for that.
And that's what this is about, man.
Absolutely,
I,
it's
I,
about me,
no, us.
us, right?
I appreciate everyone that listens. Don't get me wrong, but if no one listens and it's just you and I, and that it gets posted and no one listens, it's okay. I'm okay with it. Although I did want to say for Ted Cagney, oof, I'm not digging
Oof,
that
brother.
creative, brother.
Oh, brother, no, Jack. You
uh,
talking to Meltzer, dude?
oh, Ted. Ted's one of the funniest guys
I know.
I've
I gotta
ever.
meet up with him, man. I always forget
I,
that he lives near me. I gotta meet
Ted,
up with the
Ted,
guy.
I've never met the guy face to face, but he's one of the funniest people I've ever met on the internet. His guy is just, he always says something, and it's like always in a, having like a bad day, he pops up out of nowhere at something. It just cracks me the hell up, man. It's so odd and so different, and sometimes he's repetitive and he has no shame, and
No,
it's
no,
just,
no.
and he's just living life and taking his shots when he can, and with what they say, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So, but
Yeah.
with but with that, we're gonna call it an evening. Thanks again for listening, and we will see you next time on the Wrestling Purist podcast.
Thanks, guys.